Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Franklin Planning Board, January 13th, 2025 meeting. This meeting is audio and video recorded. It's also on Zoom, and the Zoom call-in number is 312-626-6799. The meeting number is 9727-3956-720. First item of business will be, basically, it's going to be an update from Balsam Estates. If I could go to Amy first, please.
Yes.
If you want to just give us a quick update, and then we'll let the applicant.
Sure. So the plans, they just came in late Friday. We received the paper copies today. I know that they wanted to present tonight, but I know that Beta and myself have not had a lot of time to review the plans, so it's more of a discussion than it is, just kind of more of an update for the board.
Okay, good. Just so everybody knows, Amy is on Zoom. Well, Mark is on Zoom as well.
No, he's not.
He's not on Zoom? Okay, thought he was going to join. So he's not feeling well, so just so everybody knows. All right, so I guess we'll go to the applicants. If you could just introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Good evening, I'm Joel DeRico. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is Mike. And
Mike
Amanda.
Hassett from Gary and Howland.
From Gary and Howland. Amanda.
Yep, we just wanted to give you a quick update.
Quick update, yeah.
And we had sent over some photos earlier last week. I don't know if Amy had a chance to distribute them before tonight's meeting, but we included some photos that were taken. We went out and the applicant had staked out the path of where the pedestrian easement was going to go, and we offset it, located it in the field. So that's been relocated and shown on the plans. Closest point is about 13 feet or so off of the property line. And one of the last photos in that packet was more of a natural path on what it's going to look like. No large trees are going to be taken down. It's going to be left in its in the general condition that it's at, and it's going to connect up to a break in the wall, the stone wall on the other side abutting the town-owned land. Since we last met too, we have worked with Mike Maglio and the applicant as far as meeting the stormwater requirements, and I do have Mike who can answer any questions you may have. As far as that goes, we understand that the board hasn't had a chance to look at any of this stuff yet, and Beta and Mike haven't had a chance to do a full review, but we did want to come in front of the board and be able to show them the changes. We think we've met all the requirements that were being looked for. Beta's comments from their original or from their November letter were, a lot of them were administrative, with the exception of the stormwater comment.
Okay. Just want to make note that we received two emails from the abutters, right? And it was basically in reference to the size of the basins. So I think maybe when going through your analysis, if possible to shrink it, maybe potentially. They're pretty good size, that's right. But don't need an answer now. We just want to make sure it's acknowledged.
So I can explain the thought process. So the goal was to make basins that weren't going to look like basins once they were constructed. So we didn't want to go with like a 4 or 5 foot deep, narrower footprint, but much deeper, much more defined. The goal was to make a very shallow basin that's just going to look like a low spot in the yard. So the southern one, I believe, is around 10 inches of storage, and the one to the north of the driveway is about 18 inches of storage. So they're very shallow, and it's meant to blend into the yard contours. And so if it were, the board's desire to see it reduced, we could explore that. But we feel that this is going to be the most aesthetically, desirable. Yeah, to keep it discreet.
They're gonna be mown. It's gonna be grass. It's just a little swale.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not really a basin.
So you basically just extended it out just to take the depth out of it.
Yeah, exactly. The wider it is, the shallower it can be, and it's not going to look like a defined basin is the goal.
I guess I'll go to the agenda really quick. This is more of an update for everybody in the audience, but, I'll go to the board first, if anybody has any questions, comments. Beth?
I do. I understand what you guys saying, spread it out, shallower, it looks like a feature of the yard. Can you explain perhaps to the residents that are the butters, that if you are going to make it smaller, that will mean it'll be deeper, correct?
Yes, yeah, exactly. The smaller it is, the deeper it would need to be to maintain the same storage and functionality. So, in order to meet the stormwater standards, we had to make sure that we weren't discharging more runoff from the post-development condition than the pre-development condition. And so that kind of sets the limits on, more or less how big the pond ends up needing to be. And so like I said, having it be shallow it's just gonna look like a yard versus like a defined pond with like a fence and, that being that that's shallow, you don't have to worry about those
And then
things.
typically speaking, when you have this kind of feature,
Mhm.
how long will water stand in those before it drains?
So the shallower it is, the more broad it is, the faster it drains is too, because it has more surface area to drain into.
Yep.
So the dewatering calcs I have, I think they dewater within 32 and 28 hours, where the typical performance standard is 72 hours is the maximum time. So it's draining pretty much as soon as those design storms end.
So if you were to make them smaller and deeper, you would retain the water longer, more closely to the 72
That's what I would
hours.
expect, yeah.
So the give and take on that one is you get a spread out, less water, shorter period of time, and a feature that looks more like a design of the landscape versus a deep
Exactly.
that would hold water longer.
We don't want to look like a swimming pool.
So
And-
of the options, because a requirement is that you can't put more water on property than pre-construction,
Mhm.
that this particular option is the best option for everybody concerned, even though it's not probably favorable to an abutter, it is the least invasive to their well-being, is what I guess I'm asking.
Yes, correct, and I do note that the limits of clearing that we proposed didn't expand as a result of these ponds. That area was going to be yard area anyway. And so I didn't need to expand the clearing and reduce the screening to the neighbors in any noticeable way for developers.
If I may.
Sure.
Chair. One thing to note is that when we were here initially, we did ask to waive the subdivision standards and some of the chapter 153. But because this is being considered a subdivision, we were required to comply. Standard single lots, if they're A&R plans, or a single residential lot on a street, you wouldn't have to design for 100-year storms. You still have to make sure that you're not flooding the abutters, but you don't have to meet the stormwater standards. But because the bylaw triggers that, and the board pushed us, or not pushed, I'm sorry, the board requested that we go into the chapter 153, and that we had to comply with the town standards, which triggered that. That was the most natural, low-maintenance option, and to keep it as close to natural features.
When you guys come back with, after Beta's had a chance to review and everything, can you provide some kind of examples of how this might look like a photo or something somewhere else? So we can just get an idea for the abutters.
Go ahead, Joe.
The subdivision is gonna have a driveway that goes 170 feet from the end of the cul-de-sac on Kimberly to the very end. It's 170 feet. It's 20 feet wide with the pavement. So 10 feet of that driveway is gonna spill to the right, and 10 feet of that driveway is gonna spill to the left. And at the edge of the pavement, I'm gonna have a slope that's gonna go out 15 feet. And it's gonna be grassed with soil and whatnot. I don't believe either one of those depressions, and that's what I'm gonna call them, are ever gonna see water. They're gonna be a swale just in case, but most of the water is gonna end up on that slope and go into the ground. It's just that the way it was explained to me by these folks is that the stormwater law says that based on what you disturb, you have to show where you're gonna hold it, if it's needed. And that's what they've done. But I don't believe they're ever gonna see water. They're gonna be grass, they're gonna look like lawn. One of them is gonna be 8 inches, which is hardly noticeable, and the other one is gonna be, I guess, 14 and 15 inches. And with slopes and things, they're not really what I would consider a full-fledged pedigree basin, but they're just a depression.
And I think what would be helpful through the chair is just showing abutters what something like that looks like for an example. You know, when you think stormwater basin, you think, or, you know, a swale, you think deep, and you think stone, and you think, you know, grass and weeds
I don't
and
see it
things.
as a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
I don't disagree with you, but
You
I
know?
think it'd be very helpful and go
Yeah.
a long way to show the abutters what something like this would look like, just an example photo.
I'd be happy to look into that for you.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay, yes?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Anybody in the audience, if you have a quick comment? This still has to come back to us, but we just want to,
Mr. Chairman, can I just comment on one of the emails that was received from one of the abutters asked that they had inquired about plans, and at the beginning of the year, and said that they were posted with a date of 1/3/2025, but were just received on Friday. So I just want to note that the revision date on the plan is 1/3/2025. So the plans were not received until Friday, but the date of the revised as of through the engineers was 1/3/25. So it wasn't backdated, it was dated simply on the revised date of the plans.
Yes.
There's no one trying to cut corners on posting plans. We didn't get them until Friday. It's the revised date on the plan, is the date that was posted online.
Can we get copies of the emails that you received?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
Hello again. Excuse me, Kip Brady, 36 Kimberly Avenue. Is there a reason why the retention basins have to be where they are when there's an enormous portion of land that is not going to be used for these houses towards the town land? Could those retention basins be put back there where no one will ever see them and we won't have to worry about that? First of all, that's one question. Second of all, you know, we met on the 9th, and apparently a lot of this stuff was being discussed in the background, which we never knew about. The beta document is dated November 18th. And I went back through the meeting notes, and there was some kind of offline discussions. We only learned about this morning, and I've been contacting the planning board for a week trying to see the documents, and the first document's posted this morning, and subsequent ones posted this afternoon, so we've had absolutely no time to kind of discuss this. I think the depth of if we have to do these basins, which this is the first time that this is appearing, that we never knew about until this morning. And if
I just asked them for a
Right.
update, that's all.
And if it has to be, obviously there are stormwater and all these regulations and that, but if it has to be, I think if it's possible to move it so that no one sees it, that would be preferable. And I think that's my only, with respect to the retention ponds. The path, we're still not happy about the path being right in our property line, but it doesn't sound like we're going to get very far on that, at least here. Thank you.
Can I just respond really quickly? All the plans are received, the office closes at 1 on Friday, so whether they came in Friday after the office closed or just before, they were posted today because that's when they received. So there's no way to post them earlier if we don't have them. And we too are just receiving this, and actually, I think if there were behind-the-scenes conversations, they were permitted by the planning board to have things move forward to get to a point where the applicant can talk to the engineers directly and resolve issues that we have. It's a common practice, which is then brought forward to the public hearing where everybody learns about it. There was a comment in the November, I think, peer review from Beta that suggested or indicated that the requirement is to meet all the pre and post development runoff. So in response to that comment, this is the plan that was developed. And it is the first time you're seeing it because it hasn't been addressed before then. That's the only way around to say that this is the way forward, this is how it works, this is where we are now. we just received them as well. Beta will be reviewing them and providing us more comments at the next meeting. So nobody's trying to do anything behind the scenes, it's just.
No, I was
that's
just
the
saying it just to
process.
highlight that we just seen it too, so.
Yeah.
I'll take a crack
There
at
you go.
I'll take a crack at the drainage one, so.
But, I want, Joel's gonna.
I'd just like to say to everybody that's in the room, there is no piping that is sending water into those depressions. Whatever goes into those depressions is gonna come from the sky. So they're not really a basin, they're a depression. And I have moved the easement, the edge of the easement. It varies, but it's between 13 and 18 feet from the westerly property line. And the photograph shows a path, that'll be the finished product. A path, you have the photos of the path, there's one path there. That's about the gist of it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Any other
To
comments?
answer the question you had on the drainage basin, so some principles, when we're trying to convey water into these, you want to shorten the path of conveyance, otherwise it's going to go all haywire. It'd be much worse to move, the further you get that basin away from the road, the stormwater's just going to kind of go everywhere, and we want to capture it in the basin. And the second bit of it is, everything kind of to the east is uphill. So we can't send the water uphill, we have to send it downhill, and that's just kind of where it goes. So that's to answer the questions you had on the drainage.
Good. A quick comment? Just name and address, please.
Lisa Brady, 36 Kimberly, related to the other abutter. I wanted to address the pathway, and we saw the photo of this revised potential pathway. I have a question. Why do we need a pathway at all? I know we keep going back and forth about where to put this pathway. No one's asked for it. No one has asked for a pathway to the town land.
I believe the town asked for it.
I believe DPW and potentially Beta is looking for an access point. That's all.
Planning as well, yeah.
And planning, excuse me. Am I correct in that, Amy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The town has asked. The town would like some type of access through that land, to allow the abutters to get through it. If they block it off completely, anyone on Kimberly Ave will not be able to access that town land. They'll be going to either maybe Hancock or Bridle, to get to that town land. So it's either an all or nothing type deal with this. So if they don't give us access, then abutters will not be allowed access either. So we felt this was like the best way to allow at least the neighbors, to have access to that town-owned land.
And so there's already plans for other locations to access that land.
There's
So there's
multiple locations.
That's
multiple
correct.
locations, right,
Other locations
That's-
already established as well.
yeah.
That's all.
Yes.
Respectfully, we do ask that the path be reconsidered to be moved back to the original point at the end of the driveway and not between our property and the next property. That is closer access to the land and what's being proposed. It's also where the other access will be, where there's handicapped accessibility, where there's potential picnic tables, but where it's all being developed with paths. Where it is currently planned to go, which it's really hard to tell from a photo what that path really looks like, that leads to a wall, and it does not lead to the paths that are going to be developed more through the project of the development of that public land. So we do ask again to please reconsider that pathway get moved to the end of the private road. There's no particular reason why it would need to be between two pieces of property of private ownership.
There's a break in the stone wall where the new location is, and I'm not gonna run that pathway through the front lawns of two houses. It's gonna go where it's gonna go. And I pulled it away from the property line, and there will be no cutting. They're not gonna see any visible cutting.
Just gonna meander through the existing trees.
They're gonna meander through the existing trees. They're not
It's
gonna
just a
see
means
it.
of access. Other than that, if you deny it, people could park in the cul-de-sac and cut through your property and jump the wall anyway. So this is giving them a
They are
legal
gonna-
way to get access to that property as well. So you have to bear that in mind.
most of the neighborhood is gonna walk
Yeah.
through Kimberly.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all gonna park in the cul-de-sac where the kids play. And so for a safety reason, that's gonna be a problem, because again, we've gone through this. The street is, the curve and having too many cars parked there. We had a car parked there recently that was practically blocking us from getting out of our driveway. It's, where our driveway is located at the end of the cul-de-sac, it makes it hard to come out of that driveway if there's a lot of cars parked in that driveway because of where our driveway is located. And so it's really unsafe, and they're promoting no one going down someone else's driveway with signs saying private, and then a public access way with signs there, which you don't normally see signs for pathways into these places anyway.
Yeah, actually, you do. You see them throughout the town. Grove Street, Delcox, all of them, all have point of access signs.
A really good example is.
But they're not in private
up
neighborhoods.
north Here, what's it, Indian Rock?
Yeah,
It's right in the middle of a cul-de-sac. It's right there with a sign.
So, we're just trying to direct them so they're not cutting through people's private property.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna continue this on.
Any applicant, Joel, whatever you want to answer. Is the parking that you had shown on here still here for the different place? No, that was removed. When was that removed?
That was removed, I think, for the initial submittal.
That was what was gonna be a 3-lot subdivision.
Yeah. That was when we were gonna have a cul-de-sac at
That
the
was-
end,
That was
and,
when we were gonna have a 3-lot subdivision.
yep, so we could extend it and have the parking up at the
But we
end.
never even talked about that, because when you saw 3, you didn't want it, so I.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna continue this. This was more of an update for everybody. We will be at the table again for this. Amy, I don't think Amy ditched out.
So we,
I was gonna look for a continuation date, based on what Gary and Mike and everybody has to do.
I can recommend probably February 10th, be the next available meeting.
That gives you enough time?
Not the next one? No,
February
not
10th?
the end of Jan.
Yeah, we're booked up pretty tight. We're gonna get.
Yeah.
All right.
We're full for the 27th, 10th is gonna get full tonight, and then it's February 24th.
Okay, so I make a motion to continue the, public hearing for Ballston Estates of definitive subdivision till February 10th. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's 'cause you're not-
Yeah. All right, our next item of business, this will be a public hearing for Spring Street. This will be for lots 2 and 2.1. If I go to Amy, Department of Planning, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 2 things on for them tonight. We have the A&R 81P plan to create 3 developable lots on Spring Street. And then we also have the public hearing for the scenic road permit. So both of them are on tonight. The applicant's attorney has submitted paperwork showing, I know the board was really concerned about the last meeting if it was a public way. From every research that's been done by the town, it's showing that it is a public way. It goes back to late 1800s, that it was accepted as a public way. It's been certified by the town clerk as well. So I'm gonna let the board determine if this is something that they want to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. If I can go to the applicants, if you just want to introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Michael Doherty. I'm an attorney at Doherty, Dugan, Canterbury, and Weil. And with me is Mike Dean, our engineer.
If you want to give us a brief overview, I know you submitted basically the same packet of paperwork that we had, but if you want to just give us a brief overview, and then I'll go to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the the request to, make sure this was a public way and a scenic road. I hope that, and I think that matter is resolved from the various town representatives from the town clerk and Ms. Megalo and what Amy just said. But it was, the historical research I think is there. I think this is a public road, it's pretty clear, and it is and it was designated scenic road. So I think that is resolved. And then Mike and Dean can talk about what we're trying to do here. And if I could also just, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Board, say, just in response to some things come before, I do understand, and my client says this got started the wrong way. And since then, we've tried to make it right. And and Mike can talk some more, but once, town officials got involved, requests were made, there were meetings, we got input from DPW, from the town engineer, from the fire department, and engineering was professional engineering was brought in, legal was brought in. I know there was that hearing on November 1st where a fine was issued. The fine, my client came to that, participated in that, took responsibility, paid the fine. So I understand that things didn't start the right way, but I hope you can see that there's being a sincere effort made to rectify that and try to work in a cooperative manner, and we've tried to be responsive. So with that, Mike talk about the plan.
Yes, so, sure. We submitted this back in September, I believe, as the board is aware. We've gone through a couple of meetings, and there were some questions asked last time we were here. Attorney Daugherty has submitted that packet answering those questions, I believe, but just a quick overview. So what happened was we submitted the special, the scenic road application as requested through the original process from town departments, DPW. The tree warden also held a hearing here, a joint hearing at that first meeting for the scenic road application. That's what I'm talking about right now, is the scenic road application. So once again, I think we're all aware of Spring Street is shown here. 3 lots are shown here in the orange. And through the process for the scenic road, at that point, as Mike had just mentioned, it started, there was work already taking place. So we shaped this plan showing the existing conditions, and it was requested that we submit a scenic road application, which is just germane to clearing trees. The way I see that application, it's just for clearing trees within a scenic road, in a public way in a scenic road. So with that, we submitted the plan showing the existing improvements at that time. We submitted, through that process, there was a request for a turnaround to be constructed at the end of Spring Street, and that's what's shown here. And that was through the request of DPW, fire department, a couple other people in those emails that requested that to provide safe and adequate turnaround at the end of Spring Street. So that's what's shown there. So with the scenic road application and this plan being submitted, this is, at that time this was put together, as we know, the improvements had already taken place. So there's 4 additional trees that need to be taken down within the right of way to construct this turnaround. So that's what the submittal reflects here. Mitigating measures were to replace some of the trees up here. And then this is blown up at a different scale to show that turnaround. So that's, like I mentioned, it took several months to go back and forth once we started submitting to DPW, and that's what we submitted there. And then on the other side is the A&R, just showing the 3 lots.
I'm gonna go to board before I speak, but I'll start with Chris. Chris, comments, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Attorney Daugherty hit it on the head. This got started on the wrong foot. There was action taken in a way, public or not, that shouldn't have been taken. And in my opinion, it was done in a manner to create the opportunity for these lots to come into existence, which is problematic. And then now there's the roundabout of whether this is a public way or not. And I understand and read through the packet and see what's there, but I feel like there's a lot of opportunity, problematic opportunity here for these lots to be accepted in the current state, and not knowing what happens with the road and how it'll be maintained or finished or continued. So those are my primary concerns.
Jake?
All right, so I have to echo everything that Chris said. First of all, I have to thank you guys for research. This is like voluminous. I appreciate it. I actually read every page in here, believe it or not, including the cursive. Kids, please learn how to read and write cursive.
Could you, because that was hard to read.
Difficult.
Cursive.
It was
Yes.
difficult to read.
Yeah.
It was difficult to read.
Yeah.
So kids, please practice your cursive. I'm sure that there's some children that couldn't read this if they like to
I'm
kind
sure
of.
they're tuned in right now.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, I guess, we're hinging everything on like one little line from this thing in here, which is, it's clear, it says, you know, it was included in one packet, but not the other. And it says something along the lines of Spring Street from here to here. But the issue that I keep coming back to, it just was never maintained as an open way. Yeah, thanks, Chris. You know, Spring Street from Washington to East Central, it's the 1870 street list. Yeah, I'm not gonna, I don't think that's indisputable that it's on there. Everything else is kind of a reference to that. And then I kind of had questions as to does the town have an official street map? We have like an official, like, sent it to the state, like, oh.
Yeah.
And it specifically calls out
This is
from Washington Street to Conklin's Way. And that's the official street acceptance.
Really? Yeah, so I guess the abandonment thing is just where I'm kind of hung up, right? I was joking, kind of talking to my wife, I'm like, I wonder if I drove a car down here, if I would get in trouble. You know, which in the end, I wouldn't, hopefully, if this is really an accepted, it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm, and I've looked at like a lot of these before, and I still can't really put kind of heads or tails on it. When it comes to, not the road, it says not accepted road on it, but when it comes to whether the road is open, abandoned, there was some other things in here that started going into, I'm sorry, the,
Discontinuance?
yeah, I'm an engineer, not a lawyer, sorry guys. I know that it's the other way around for you. So, that was just, if I could, I guess I'd like to hear just a little, if someone could delve into all of this, kind of when open, not open, maintained, and all that, because I think that's where the minutia in this lies.
May I respond?
Sure.
So, I mean, I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, I feel very, very comfortable saying, legally, this is an accepted public road in Franklin. And yes, the town has, a number of times, looked at, should we discontinue it? And there are legal and liability issues, and they lay out in the memos, going back to Wolfgang Bauer, as to why the town has not discontinued the road. So legally, this is a public way. And I do understand what you're saying about, you think there was a motive here. This 100 yards further up the road to West Central, that's still a public way too. So I don't think that whether there are trees in the public way or there aren't trees in the public way doesn't change the fact that it's a public way. So legally, it's a public way. Now, to your point about driving there, I'm guessing you have driven up there. I have. And you kind of feel like you're in like Vermont, right, or New Hampshire when you go up there. I don't think the town maintains that road. And I'm thinking that
No, not the extent.
I'm thinking that's the reason why there's talk of gravel, not it's a subdivision type of road there, because there isn't a subdivision road that leads to it. It's a country road at best, right? I mean, I've driven up there before, sometimes, you know, we go up to Wadsworth, or I like to walk that path there. And as you're driving up, if there's someone coming down, you're gonna pull over. I mean, there's not,
Yeah.
and so, there is that, but it is a public way, and the fact that it's a public way, people who own land abutting a public way do have rights, and that's one of the reasons the town hasn't discontinued it, because if the town discontinues it, butters can sue the town for damages. So I hope that answers your question.
It does add a lot of clarity to it. So, I guess beyond that, right, as we get to the point of like the actual road, right, and whether or not it's improved, the level of quality of the roadway, right? Because I think that does factor into this conversation somehow, and I do have a fair amount of concern with, like you said, there's a choke point there. You know, it kind of amazes me that we built anything up there to begin with that road like that. But, you know, it's a gravel road, so the town's gonna have to maintain that in the future, which is a pain. It just doesn't feel like the kind of road we wanna build here, so, you know, even if we move forward with this A&R, I'd really like to see us actually put a road in here. Because we're not in Vermont, you know, we need to be constructing roads that aren't gonna require excess maintenance and meet, you know, modern stormwater standards. And, you know, just because something is unsafe currently doesn't mean that we can't improve the level of safety of the road. We do that all the time as engineers, so, you know, that, just, the fact that we even have stuff back there is always been mind-boggling to me, so I guess that's kind of my ins and outs on that one, so.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. Beth?
Yeah, so I appreciate everything you guys are saying and don't disagree with you. But in my mind, I get to a point where I think, all right, if we went to court with this, would it win? And my answer is no.
Nope.
It would not. Do we have any other choice? The parameters of an A&R plan does not include the ability for roadways to be constructed to our standard. And when I say that, my question is to Mike, why? And I know this is not something we're reviewing in an A&R plan, nor is it something we're reviewing in the scenic road. I totally understand, so out of my own curiosity, why is the town okay with a gravel road that doesn't meet our town standards for 3 A&R lots, but not okay with it for a 2-lot subdivision that was previously before us from Mr. Dorigo? So why are we picking and choosing who can put in a gravel road that doesn't meet our standards and be okay with it? I don't understand that. That's where I'm hung up, but I know it's not a criteria for approving or denying either of these applications. It's just my own curiosity.
Mr. Chairman? So, to address that, I mean, I think it really, it's a matter of context. And so Spring Street's basically a gravel road all the way up to the solar farm that was built recently. The town maintains that now. And this was an extension of an existing public way, not an extension, but extending along the existing public way for 3 more houses. For us, when we reviewed it in discussions with the director and the highway superintendent, I think it just made sense that as an extension of the gravel road, what they did, they put about 2 feet of a gravel base down, and then our recommendation was basically another 4 inches of a dense graded crushed stone on top of that, just to make it similar to the rest of the road. And it was in the context of that made the most sense to us as far as future amount of maintenance of that. As opposed to the private driveway of the other one, that's a paved street. They're extending a private driveway. If they want to extend a private gravel driveway, I mean, I think that might be an option, but again, that's not something the town's gonna maintain, something that we'd be looking for, but typically it's planning board and because they are subdividing that parcel into other lots, so it's sort of a different aspect to it.
Yep, no, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yep.
So for me, in my opinion, while I don't necessarily agree with this, I don't think we have a choice. So that's where I am at this point in time, and I think that the paperwork you provided is still not clear to me. Like, it's the one sentence from the 18, whatever it was, document that says, accepted road, but then there's multiple documents that say, it's not clear, we should get an engineer in here to reevaluate, and, is that partial? So I guess I'm just stuck, but I understand it's in a vote. What are you gonna do? So for me, if we have to vote on this tonight, I think we have to approve it. And the scenic road application, I think what is being proposed, we have to prove that too. I don't think we have any choice in this matter. That's just how I feel about it. Don't agree, but that's how I feel.
Good, thank you. Jen?
In line with my fellow board members, I mostly just think it's really unfortunate that it looks like this was brought up in the past in 1994, when it was supposed to have been brought into town council to discontinue the road after that point of I think the railroad tracks were mentioned in particular. And there's no record of it, and then it looks like there was a ton of correspondence from 2023 about possibly going to town council again to recommend discontinuing the road, and it feels like a missed opportunity in the past, and now that we have potential development or residents will be living on a road maintained by the towns, that taxpayers are paying to maintain this gravel road, which is absolutely not to any of our standards. I just think it's really unfortunate. Our hands are tied by the letter of the law, unfortunately, but I am not happy about the situation, and still hope that this is somehow remedied with the improvement of the road long-term, for the safety and the financial reasons for the town's future and the people living there. That's all.
I have a question.
Sure.
And this is kind of what I was getting at before, and this is for you, this one's not for me. What is opening a road? What is the definition of opening a road? Because I always considered, I have my own thought about what opening a road is, and I'm reading through MGL here, and it's confusing me because it says no person shall open a road for public use unless the road is in accordance with the official map, which would mean it was an accepted road if it's on the official map. So what is the legal definition of opening a road?
I don't know. I haven't researched that. I don't know the answer to that.
So that's kind of a better vocalization of what I was trying to explain before, because let me just read a little snippet from section 81G here. It says, after a city or town has adopted an official map under section 81E, which we're saying we have, no person shall open a road for way for public use except as provided in the subdivision control law, unless the location of such way is in accordance with the official map as it then appears, which would make me think that it's on the official map, so it's an accepted road, or has been approved by the planning board under the provisions of the section, which makes me think that's a new road, you know, a road opening. And in either case, the grading, surfacing, and drainage of such way is approved by the board. So that last part there is, that's what I'm kind of hung up on, because approve the A&R or not, I feel like we still have,
The road still has to be constructed.
yeah, some level
according to
of,
the regulations.
yeah, so that's why I'm kind of curious as to what open means.
So when you read that, and it did mention somewhere about subdivision, and this, I think that is a distinction here. This is not a subdivision. But you know, I don't know.
Follows the criteria. It follows the criteria. So, I actually have some of the documents.
I think it was an exception. It was like saying you could follow the subdivision control law, or it wasn't inclusive. So that's what I'm just kind of curious, because look, I think I think Beth is correct. This is, I've been kind of on this one from the beginning and going back and forth, and I'm going back to my original position. I think these lots are 81 or A&R lots. I think that's clear. What I do not think is clear is our ability to control alterations to the road. So you know.
Jay, if I might just.
Because even up here, it says, you know, alteration approved by the planning board.
That means still has to come to. the
Yeah,
planning
I'm
board
just-
in order for it to become an actual A&R, therefore safe.
And it did lead me
travel.
down a little bit of a funny path, because then the street, with a road permit or the street permit or whatever, the road access permit for the town is actually issued by the DPW. And in other municipalities that I work with, they're issued through the planning board. I'm assuming most likely because it's requirement. So.
Mr. Chairman, just, I guess, what are we doing then? Like, where are we going with this? Because we can't keep prolonging it, we need to give some direction, and
So-
what are we doing?
So, that's why I wanted everybody to go first. The paperwork that I have in front of me, and it's dated, it's the road acceptance list on Spring Street, and it's accepted, from Washington Street to Cochran's Way, and its approximate length is 2,500 feet. That's the paperwork that I have right here. This is the town's accepted roadways, all accepted town passageways. So, I got a few problems with this one. One, it was first, the way it was done, that we were never informed. Two, plowing through town property, destroying town property, had no legal right to get up there. Three, whether this actually meets an A and R lot, because the criteria for an A and R lot, I personally, am not an attorney, but I don't believe it meets it, because it has safe means of entry, egress, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how you could do that on a bicycle path. A road has to be constructed in order to be accepted. There's many paper roads out there. This was a paper road that was accepted, and it was only accepted as a form of connection point from Washington Street to West Central Street for the future, from 150 years ago. That was the only train of thought. Grove Street took care of that, as well as part of Prospect Street. So, there's a lot of paperwork here, there's a lot of references. I'm not comfortable signing off with this. I don't want the taxpayers of the town to pay for this in perpetuity for maintaining a gravel road. I don't think it's fair to the residents that are gonna buy those houses, because where are they gonna be in 5 years? They're gonna be at this board complaining because their road's eroded, it's falling apart. They're gonna be calling DPW every third day because there are ruts in the road. And we're paying big money up here for taxes, but we don't get the same services as other places. The town doesn't even have enough money to maintain and take care of, like, say, Florence Street as an example. But yet we're gonna allow 1,000+ feet of gravel road in perpetuity to maintain. It's all wrong. It's not the right process. So I'm gonna ask Amy to go outbound for legal counsel to review the A&R lots, the criteria, the acceptance of the roads, and potentially the legal litigation against the applicant for destruction of personal property, like town property. This is a very slippery slope. None of us attorneys up here, but we're all well educated, and we want to do the right thing for the town property, and that's all we want. So,
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind,
Yep.
when he's here. It's not something that our department has a budget for legal counsel. That's the toughest part. We know all the budget crisis going on in town right now. I don't know if I would be granted. It would have to go up probably through our TA level
That's
for me to get any authority to do that. I don't know if I will be granted authority or not. It's been a while. I think I agree with Madam Whirling that a decision probably should be made to not continue to delay this. If whatever decision the board wants to make and then wants me to follow up afterwards, I'm more than happy to do so and pursue other avenues if available for the town resources. I don't know if I'm going to get the resources to support that.
I don't want us to deny it without having the proper information in front of us. That's why I want outside legal counsel to review this whole thing. This one's very far and few between, and I think it's money well spent for the town. I mean, the town has money spent elsewhere. This board never asked for additional legal. We've done it in the past, they found it. I think specifically for this one, they should find it. And it's only for the better of the town. And I think the applicant would agree that it's nothing etched in stone on this one. And this one's a very tricky, slippery slope. I just want to make sure that we're making the right decision and that we have all the proper information in front of us. So I think town administrator will have to find a little bit of money and have
I
this
think, I
review.
guess, I think if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, through the board, all the paperwork that's been submitted has mainly shown it's an accepted public way. Whether it was constructed properly or not is the question. The issue that would bring an outside counsel or probably any attorney that would look at it is to determine if it's an actual public way. And it is, and it is. And maybe some conditions can be put into any decisions that the board makes on, I think Mike Maglio elaborated, he wants 4 more inches of asphalt on the roadway, and some of those conditions could be issued. But this is what the matter comes down to, is if it's a public way or not, and I haven't seen anything that says it has not been an accepted public way. And I know this is a tough thing. It's something that the town's responsible for maintaining public ways. The town never maintained this way. And that's why it's at the state it's at, unfortunately. Or fortunately, whatever way you wanna look at it. So I think that's the decision the board needs to make. I will go with the decision you make, but I don't know if I'm gonna get any of the funding to
I'd rather
go any
find out-
further with this.
I'd rather find out first before we vote, because if we vote and it's a no vote, then you're gonna be in court anyways. So let's just cut to the chase and let's figure it out now.
May I respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I respect the sincerity of your views. I know that you hold them sincerely. And I respect that. And you're a volunteer that gives a lot of your time to this town, and I appreciate that. Respectfully, I disagree with you. I do think that this is the 5th hearing on this matter. You asked me to research some issues. I did what you asked and again, I know it started the wrong way, but the requests that have been made, whether it's from the town engineer or the fire department, every request that's been made, we've agreed to. We said, please put a turnaround in there. We'll build a turnaround. Please add 4 inches of extra crushed stone. We've agreed to that. It's in the plan. Please plant some new trees. We've agreed to that. There's a fine. It was paid. So we have done what has been asked of us respectfully. And I understand you hold the views that you hold. What I have to ask you, Mr. Chairman, is please put it to a vote this evening. You're right, the result's going to be the same. If you vote no, yes, there'll be a lawsuit. If you vote to approve it, great, but in the public record, you already have Mark Sorrell's, the town attorney's view on this, that I believe, he's already told you what I have told you. So, I've said my piece, sir. I would ask that the board vote on this evening.
I guess my question, this is like going to a doctor and getting an assessment, and then you don't like his decision. You go get another opinion. It's exactly what I'm doing. So I think it's just it's more for clarity, it's more for cleaning this up, because this probably isn't gonna be the last one that comes in front of us. And I think what potentially could clean the whole thing up, if you just withdrew the A&Rs and just filed for a subdivision, then everything goes away and it's done legally. You're already halfway there with the road. So that's another option that you could take. In all the quirks and all the looseness of this whole situation could get rectified.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I make a comment?
Sure.
I'll start off by saying that I respect you 100% as the chairman of this board, and generally 99% of the time agree with you. In this instance, I do think putting it to a vote is necessary. I think I see the writing on the wall that we will not get any funding to move this forward, unfortunately. There is lack of support in the upper echelons of our town government to provide funding for this, because writing on the wall to me says we've worked with you through DPW, we've worked with you through planning, we've worked with you through other boards, and that this is what is being presented by the town as the solution to this. So I don't foresee them saying, yes, we'll give you funds. I think we're just pushing it off for another meeting, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe 4, until that review can be done. Whereas I think if we vote tonight and you get a no answer, at least you know you get a no answer, and then we move forward with the expensive cost of going to court, and which we'll likely lose. So for me, I would suggest that we take a vote and see what happens. And that way, if we know.
If I can, I kind of want to go down one more here. No matter how you cut this, we have a crack at saying, some level of discussion over how this road is altered. It's very clear to me here. So, not a question for you guys, a question for Amy. Is, Amy, at what process does the planning board get to exercise their rights under section 81G?
For the 80,
For the alteration of an official road. It's
that would be under DPW's jurisdiction.
not
As
according
being
to
a-
state law, it's not.
I'm not a lawyer either, Jay.
So
Like I
that's
said,
kinda my hang up is-
that,
I'm
that,
just commenting on
I
that.
could not.
I think that we have a lot of different issues, crossing paths that need to be separated out from what our actual purview is for looking at this. And in this instance, if you're talking about the construction of the road,
Oh, it's the so that's what our hang up here is actually the alteration
I
of the road.
understand that alteration of the road, which has nothing to do with approving an A&R plan or an
Correct.
81P plan, so we have to vote on that.
Correct.
We can address the issue of that we don't agree that the planning board itself was given the right to comment on how the road was constructed.
And that's what I'm trying to say.
I
They're
get
separate
that,
issues.
it's a separate issue that can't be hung up on voting for an A&R plan in this.
No, this shouldn't hang us up at all.
No.
I just want to know what,
Right.
you know, while we're having a discussion, no, the A&R should be ordered. While this discussion is open, how is this exercised by us in the town of Franklin?
I don't know the answer.
Goes to
that.
DPW.
I think
And I
it's a
think we need to review
conversation that we ask Amy to provide a letter to the town asking that very question to get clarification on it. But as far as what we have in front of us, I do believe we have to vote on it. Just my opinion.
I agree with you.
Okay. Chris, any more thoughts?
Can we put conditions on the vote to satisfy the requirements as we've been explained to, or do we get a?
Mr. Chairman, you can put conditions on the vote for the scenic road, but I don't think you can put conditions on the A&R plan. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding of the law, yes. The-
Correct.
The 81P, it's an up or down.
Yep.
I still feel strongly that it was just done inappropriately, and, you know, we can beat a dead horse all we want, but, you know, if I went out to High Street and ripped it up and decided to do something different, I think we'd have a bigger problem in hand. So,
Disagree with you.
Very similar to like I was saying the other day. Paper road next to Fletcher's Field, and they plow through right field, and the guy says, oh, there's like A&R lots, but the right field of Fletcher's Field ripped up. See a whole different story. It's the process, that's all.
So, Mr. Chairman, not to step on
Yep.
your toes, but I do believe that I'll be asking to make a motion to approve the 81P plan for Spring Street.
Amy, you sure we can't get thumbs up on one more crack at review before this?
Mr. Chairman, I believe our chances are pretty slim. I can always try and I would always ask for it. I just know in our department's budget, we do not have any money for legal. So you will not, I'd have to go up to the TA's office for any additional funds for legal.
Okay.
So
Any
just
thoughts?
motion to approve the A&R plan for 60 Spring Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
And then, as far as the scenic road application is concerned, propose the conditions, as outlined, is it outlined somewhere? Was it, increasing the length of the turnaround and increasing the depth of the gravel road to 4 inches?
It was a 4-inch layer of dense graded crushed stone as a surface course for that.
Okay.
What they've done. There was comments in that, I think, in the director's original letter that dates way back. We had mentioned the turnaround and the dense grade
So
surface.
including, I'll just say, when we close the hearing, I'll just say that the discussion is going to be based upon the director of the DPW's letter, which is, do you know the date on that by chance, off the top of your head?
September 20th?
September 20th?
I think that's right, I think you're right on that.
So make a motion to close the public hearing for the scenic road?
May I ask a
Hold on.
question? Do we can still speak of conditions and stuff after we close?
Yes. Is there something other than what we've discussed that you think should be
I would
included?
like to explore the opportunity of a reserve fund to cover a year or two's worth of maintenance, because we don't know what we're getting into here, even though we're gonna add 4 more inches. We don't really know what might happen over time, and I know it's been in place for 18 months at this point, a year, but we don't know what's gonna happen if it continues, and we make some changes, so I'd like to see some dollars set aside from the applicant as part of that process to make that happen.
Improvement of the road would be conditioned, that's correct? I'd like to see the
I
road
want
conditioned to be
go-
approved to be a normal road.
Correct.
I fully disagree with, no offense, Mike, fully disagree with you guys on that. That needs to be a paved road with drain and everything else. So, as you said before, the issues are separate. These are, in my opinion, area on our lots. We can move forward with
Some
that.
form-
Right, but the alteration of that road is a way. That falls under our purview, and that's clear to me, and I don't have to be a lawyer to read this.
How far up Spring Street does the existing drainage go?
That's the issue, is there, it's a nightmare to make drainage on.
I apologize. I thought the existing drain, there really is no existing drainage on Spring
So
Street.
what would it connect to, I guess is my
Just
question.
just crown it, shut it off.
Okay,
Yeah, but then you're shutting it off.
There's many ways, we did it, there was a subdivision on Maple Street, had a little culvert on the side, able to discharge some of the water in it, little infiltration basins and whatnot, clean water and whatnot. You wanna at least make it, you wanna make it passable, you wanna make it safe, school buses, mailmen, fire department, police department,
My
everybody.
thing with the road is, can a fire truck pass another vehicle? That's just always been my thing, I can't do that. And then the drainage thing's, important, right? But can a fire truck pass another vehicle? If there was an obstruction in the roadway, can we get an emergency vehicle through there? And I think that's no. So that's where I've always had disliked that road. And for a bunch of solar panels, let them burn.
Yeah.
No.
Two wrongs,
If you don't,
two wrongs don't
if
make
you
it
don't-
right. Just because Spring Street's capital dilapidated doesn't mean that we accept something
Yeah, I
in the
just-
future.
Look,
Because
the
the
lots
town's gonna
should
end
be
up putting
developed.
this road in 15 years, the town's gonna end up putting a road in there, because those 3 homeowners are gonna be up here complaining every year because the road is broken up, eroded, frozen, getting stuck, etc. Town's gonna own this, perpetuity. I'm just throwing it out there, and that's what frustrates me. We shouldn't accept a gravel road as a means of transportation.
No, this should not be acceptable.
That's
Like,
right.
it's not an acceptable public road. Whether those rain on us, I think
Correct.
discussion is over.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I? Oh, sorry.
Jen had something.
Yeah, I just.
No, I was just gonna agree. I mean, this is the opportunity to bring, it's not even just safety, it's maintenance and plowing and safety driving on a non-plowed street because it's not plowable and it having to be repaired every few days, like you said.
I don't think we're talking about like a 24-foot wide road with sidewalks and granite curb here.
No.
That's not the level of improvement that I'm talking about, but like 20.
Something reasonable.
Yeah, 20-foot paved roadway, I think is reasonable.
Mhm.
And that's even substandard.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. You had one more
Just one more
comment?
question through you.
Yep.
Mike, so did I hear you say that Spring Street, not just this section that's been made gravel by the applicant, but prior to that, is there a section of gravel?
So Spring Street is paved from Washington Street to, I want to say,
The Willow
Mm.
Tracks.
The railroad,
Snet-
with across the
Snet,
yeah.
Snet crossing, that's paved, and just beyond that, it turns to gravel. And I'm gonna say it's maybe about 1,000 feet or so, that's just all gravel roadway that kind of gets up there, up to the solar farm. There's a small section right before the solar farm, when they built the solar farm, they paved because it was on a steep incline, but that's a short, like maybe 200-foot section, very short section. The rest of the entire Spring Street is for the most part all gravel. So as far as your proposed, my question would be, just for the improvements of Spring Street, are you talking about just a section with, front of these 3 A&R lots, or the entire section?
Just this
That's
section.
what I was getting at, is that you're going to have, if we're requesting to have a portion of Spring Street where these 3 lots are paved, then you'll have a stretch of gravel, and then you'll go back to paved, right? Yeah, that just doesn't, I understand, and I completely respect what you guys are saying, but what benefit does it make if you have a improved piece of roadway to our standards, and then a piece of gravel roadway that isn't to our standards, and then you're back to our standard? Like, who's doing that middle section?
So what happens is the adjoining neighbor on the right who owns that, he'll be having to put a section of road in to meet the needs and the regulations of the town prior to the solar farm. So there's other parcels in between that will get developed. So the idea is, why should the town pay for all this infrastructure and road? The town's not benefiting anything with houses.
No, I get
Cost
it,
the
I
town money.
understand.
So, and what we're gonna get left holding the bill for putting roads in, where people get lots basically for the donut.
But that piece of Spring Street, is that where the, I'm sorry, I don't recall, but where does the solar farm access their solar farm? Is it off the gravel portion of the road? Yeah.
It is gravel,
It is
yeah.
continuing.
So it's already been developed, so
Before.
you can't go after the people that did the
Right.
solar farm to fill in that piece of gravel road. So we, as a town, either have to say we're paying for it, or it stays gravel, and you have a paved side on both sides.
But
Is that accurate?
But you have a
Right.
parcel across the way that's undeveloped right now, which in future will be developed, which is across from the solar farm.
I mean, but it's
Yeah,
anyone's
This
guess.
is the access to the solar right here.
So
But it
across
could
the
be-
way, there's a chunk of land right where that clip is, that's undeveloped as of right now.
Which
Top right.
could be developed tomorrow, or could
Yep.
never be developed,
Yep.
so therefore that piece of gravel roadway could just sit there as gravel roadway with 2 paved sides.
But the point is, the town shouldn't be putting roads in for private developers.
Nope, I
That's
understand
what I'm
that,
getting to.
I understand that.
So we're gonna move
Can there not
forward.
be a developer impact fee that covers the cost of improving the
Well,
length of the road?
we're gonna,
But not all
That was
of
gonna be
it.
my question too.
go ahead.
I was gonna say the same thing as Jen, we have other developments that have come into town, larger apartment complexes, and they've put sidewalks in or donated money for sidewalks in other parts of town. Why would the applicant be potentially, through the chair, open to taking care of all of Spring Street to connect pavement to pavement?
That's typically what I've seen in other communities, is you have to improve the road from your frontage to the last point where the road, yep.
And I think in
last
my
connection
mind,
point.
sorry Jay, I think in my mind, that undoes some of the bad from the work that they've already done.
I think that's a, you know, I think that's a, in my mind, that's kind of what I was searching for, right? When we do this another, I work for a municipality that hunts these things, that we're on this like witch hunt for these, and we've got like 80 miles of them, and it's, I work very intimately with this, so that's why I kind of really focus on some of the minutia, and that's typically what we do, is like, all right, fine, but you have to go back to the last point, that this is paved and improved all the way. And kind of what I was going at before is I don't think that this road needs any level of meeting, you know, real road, but to leave it in gravel and have like choke points and weird dipsy views doesn't feel good either. Especially because we're gonna have to pay to maintain it, and then I'm just paying to maintain someone's driveway, really.
Jay, on that comment and Chris's comment, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
and to the applicant's attorney,
Oh,
sorry.
Is there, in an attempt to find some sort of middle ground here, you know, there's other homes up here, there's a solar farm, there's town forest, does the town have any appetite for potentially cost sharing this? You know, because then we're talking about, is, you know, everyone on this building seems okay with all these homes going here, so, you know, when you're placing decisions like that, it seems like you should also kind of have some skin in the game.
So kind of piggybacking on that, my question to Mr. Chairman and the applicant, is it something that, while I realize it's not necessarily in our purview to review via a scenic road permit? Is it something that your applicant, would be willing to chat with the town about potential, as Chris indicated, make the whole situation a lot better, potentially paving? Can you talk to them about their willingness to do that before we close this hearing?
So you've said a lot.
Sorry.
No, well, it's,
Your head
And this
hurts,
one's
so
a
does
tricky
mine.
one, that's what, you
Fair.
understand why
No,
we're,
yeah.
Yep.
and don't feel bad, if it was somebody else, they'd be going through the same exact thing, so don't feel like you're being singled out,
No.
not by any stretch of the imagination. This one's just very cumbersome. And we wanna
Neither
make
my
sure
client
we
or
do
I
right.
taking this personally.
Yeah.
So, if you were saying, hey, we'd like you to put some pavement down in front of these 3 lots, that's one thing. And I think I agree with the town engineer, my client. Honestly, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I've gone up here and I haven't done measurements. There's some ponds there. I don't know how you could legally first deal with it, because there's a lot of property owners. Because I would think, I think, people would have, everyone would have an opinion. And instead of having no abutters here, I think you might have a lot, if we say we're going to, change the roadway all that way, because there's a lot of abutters there. People that live there, that, like, to your concern about, hey, these 3 people that might buy these lots someday come in here and complain. Well, Ryan, your position, the first thing I'd say to them is, well, you drove on that road to get there, you knew what you were getting into, and some folks want to live on a country way, right? I mean, I've lived here long enough where there was a movement against sidewalks, and we had the scenic road, and then there were movements to have wide roads, subdivision roads, and now there's been a movement to narrow our roads. So, people disagree about what they like. So I think there'd be some legal issues to do that, and I'm sure there'd be some engineering issues to do that. So I don't know if it's practical to do that. We don't want to be difficult. I mean, we're happy to have a conversation. As I understand where we are right now, there was a 3-2 vote to approve the A&R lots, which I'm guessing, I think, approves that. If you're asking us to come back, one more time to talk about the scenic road, I think we would, and try to be creative, but trying to get all the way down. There's a lot of property.
I don't think there's as many, like, right-of-way, property ownership easements as, issues like, as you think. I think more of them are just, you gotta pave like 1,000 feet of road.
Right.
And I think that's more of it. You'd have to get from your frontage to the existing asphalt. But you do have base there already. So, I mean,
Now, also, if it's an accepted way by the town, the landowners really don't have any say, because it's town property.
no, they don't. It's just an
It
accepted.
gives them the
right
right
of
to
way, so.
pass and repass, and that's it.
I guess I'm going back to my earlier comment. I'd be looking for the town to put some skin in the game on it, like to have you guys add it to your resurfacing budget, so.
Right, I mean,
You're like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
No,
well,
no offense
so-
meant, but I go back to the fact that we're getting indication from the town that this is as far as they're taking it.
Right.
And our pushback is not gonna go anywhere, so why are we bringing you back in another 4
Right.
weeks to say the
Because-
same thing? I don't
because we wanna see
understand.
what the developer's willing to put on the table, considering how this
Which
thing will start.
I
So,
understand.
little additional pavement, a little additional road work. In addition to the property in front of the 3 lots,
There's gotta be some sort of.
this is gonna have to be a working relationship. This is,
It's gonna
you
be
know what I
better
mean?
than gravel, but
Yeah.
not a full
So
road.
why
There's
don't we
some sort of-
continue
yeah.
this, talk to the applicant, find out what kind of improvements they could do, would enjoy to do, okay? And then we'll table this.
I will, Mr. Chairman, just let me be very clear, I don't want to ever get too far ahead of my client and what's fairness, and I think Ms. Whirling's been spot on, what she's been saying, and I get what everyone else is saying. I cannot imagine my client agreeing to pave a road all the way there. And what my lawyer understanding of, I mean, I've represented enough clients in construction that I've learned a little bit from a lawyer about what it takes to build a road. And I know it's, you know, there's a lot of work to it. If we were talking about right in front of these three lots, I mean, I think that could be a different answer. So I'm happy to cooperate and listen to that, but I do think the town will have an opinion. And I think you're right, I think we've heard what the town's opinion is, all right? But you worked with us on the 81P, appreciate that. I'll take 3-2 as a win, and we'll come back, but I don't want to set expectations unreasonable.
Just bear in mind, we still have the open book of destruction of town property, so remind him highly and thoroughly. He doesn't want to work with us on this pavement, legal course may be taken. So, it's happened in the past, and part of working together. So, Amy, continuation.
I got a quick question,
Sorry.
just on the road thing. Does the town have any ability to charge a betterment for paving that?
Like a sewer water?
Just like a sewer and water betterment, I believe we might have an ability to charge a betterment for that.
I think the town can charge a betterment for work it actually does. And does the town want to do that work?
I think the town can charge a betterment for the work that it does there. So if the town wants to pave that road, it shouldn't have to worry about it, because I can believe it can charge a betterment for it.
Okay.
So
Well, we
that
can
would,
take a peek
that would
into that.
alleviate a lot of this conversation. Just go in there, pave it, betterment fee, done.
Amy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this isn't up to the planning board's decision. It's a scenic road permit in front of us to basically give permission for the trees that were
We're gonna continue
removed.
it. We're gonna continue it until we hear back from the applicant.
All right, that's fine. We have a lot of new projects coming in.
Yep.
So,
I'd ask if we could be on your next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
10th?
'Cause
The 10th?
10th, that's fine.
Wanna go February 10th, Amy?
we can do February 10th.
All right, so I make a motion to continue, the 81P A&R for Spring Street, till,
No, we already, we did.
oh,
this
excuse
is
me,
the scenic road
the
permit.
scenic road permit, my apologies. Till February 10th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
And just to, so that I don't want to misrepresent myself, I do agree with you, I think what you're asking is beyond your power, but we're trying to continue to be cooperative. I just don't want you to.
Yep.
But I do appreciate your time
Just
in
remind-
the back and forth.
Just remember what I mentioned about,
Yes, I do. Thank you.
thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we can charge a betterment.
Okay.
That's what to do.
All right. Our next item of business will be for a public hearing, and this is a continuation for 55 Constitution Boulevard. Amy, if I could go to you, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yep, they've provided some updated plans for us. Beta's provided their review letter as well. Also included in Beta's review letter is the traffic review also.
Okay. Amy, we were gonna set up a specific meeting just for traffic for this one, I believe?
Traffic actually is included in this memo, as well as Beta's traffic engineer Dennis is also on Zoom. to be able to answer any questions for traffic.
Okay. Yeah, this one's just specifically traffic, right? I thought.
I mean, we can, I mean, Gary's here as well from Beta that could also provide, any, answers to the stormwater management because he did provide a letter within a review.
Okay.
Where'd him go?
You still there?
Oh, did you guys unplug our computer?
That's a no vote.
Yep, can't do that. Uh-oh.
We're just gonna restart.
Yeah, hold on one sec. Oh, Amy, you back?
I'm here, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got unplugged.
Oh, okay, so, no, so Gary's here tonight to also address the drainage. He did provide a letter, and like I said, Dennis from Beta, the traffic engineer, is also on Zoom and can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. So, what do you wanna do? Traffic first or just general, drainage? Our traffic engineer, he's online, and then your traffic engineer is.
That's right.
All right, so let's just do this. For the record, just introduce yourselves, please, and then we'll move forward.
Sure. Todd Maury from Beals Associates. I also have Tyler Lapshansky from our office.
And Heather Monica with Greenman Peterson.
And Jeff Sullivan from Northbridge is here. Also, thank you. And we had submitted some responses to everything but stormwater back on December 30th. So that came in electronic and hard copy. So that, hopefully that covered all of Beta's peer reviews, like I said, except for stormwater. Stormwater, we're gonna be submitting Thursday of this week.
So let's do this. Gary, you wanna give us a brief update from, to the information you have now?
Yeah, a couple of things I thought that the board should be aware of. Number one is the issues associated with the landscape buffer requirements. When you look at the letter, you're going to see that when the site visit was made, the residents on King Street and then the assisted living facility were very visible from the site, even as it exists right now, because it's primarily a deciduous buffer. So, they're going to close in on it. And then the other one is that when you look at the fire department, right now there's a very good evergreen buffer between the existing site and the fire department, which is pretty much going to be removed in its entirety. So I think I made a recommendation to, they've got, I think, 13 spaces that are additional, that are extra. And I believe they're also talking about trying to reserve some of the other spaces. Obviously, this is for the board to consider, but my recommendation was perhaps they could cut back 10 or 11 and be able to provide a thicker buffer and maybe even give a little bit more of a berm to the fire department, and even the same with the back, on the back side relative to what's going on with the residential abutters. And then the other big item I had was, there's a public easement. I'm treating it more as a public easement, and I've got to defer this to the DPW, but all the utilities that come from the fire department come straight across this, and they're gonna get relocated.
Correct.
Which I don't see as an issue, but one of the issues I raised was that there's gotta be a legal mechanism associated with being able to route that, and I believe, I'm gonna defer that to Mike. I think that's something that DPW.
Yeah, there absolutely has to be an easement.
Yeah, but we
that
just
covers
raised we raised that issue. And other than that, like you said, there were no stormwater comments responded to, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Those
so-
are the two big items, and I think both of them, those to be considered by the board.
Yeah, so for those utilities, yeah, there's water, sewer, and storm drain that comes
Yes.
off of that fire department. So we've relocated all of those, and we absolutely agree, there has to be an easement on that. We just want to make sure we have the final locations before we dedicate where that easement's gonna be.
Mike, was that easement there?
It's an existing easement, Mr. Chairman, and what I was gonna say is that we could work with the applicant if the project does get approved. Once they start construction and the utilities are relocated, we could work with them to get in front of the town council to accept any new easements or abolish the old ones, or work with the town attorney and get all that done. That should be done before the CO is issued for the building. but we could do that during construction. That process could.
And then as far as the screening comments go, there were some spaces in the back that we had talked about doing as reserve. We met with the fire department, and really, their dormitory section, they showed us which part of the building that was. So what we did is we created a 4-foot berm, I think it's 4 feet, 4-foot berm, that we put some additional plantings on, and then we'd like to propose putting those spaces on that side as reserve as well. And that's part of the comment pack, or the response package that came back through you folks, with an updated landscape plan and site plan that shows that. So I think those are pretty good solutions to some of the items that they identified.
Yep, okay. All right, so I guess before we get into the traffic, does anybody have any quick comments or questions on what we just went through? No?
Yeah, my only comment would be Gary's suggestion on cutting back the 10 or 11 parking spaces to preserve the landscape buffer. Is that something you guys would be willing to entertain?
Yeah, I think that's what we were talking about by making reserve spaces.
Yeah, okay.
So,
that's included
yeah,
in
and
it,
on the site
okay.
plan, there'll be little Rs with circles.
Yeah.
Those would be the ones that we would not build unless a tenant specifically needed that number of parking
Okay,
spaces.
that's included in it then.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, we'll commit to that.
Through the chair. Related, how tall is the new building? And where will the height of it sit relative to the height of the existing fire station? Because there aren't contours like on the fire station site on the drawings, so because obviously you're only showing your own site, so I'm just trying to understand a site section of King Street up to your lot. Obviously, right now, the existing building is set further back. And I'm not concerned what you see from Constitution Boulevard because of the nature of the industrial zone, but I just want to have a better understanding of what is visible from particularly the residences across the street from the fire station as well, because this building is getting so close to the edge of the lot line, and I'm just not sure where that sits relative to the street.
So there's about a 6-foot grade difference between the fire department lot and our lot.
Mm-hmm.
So our lot is about 6 feet higher
Higher.
than the fire
And
department.
how tall is your building?
47? 47 at the peak. So it's about 43 on the corners.
What's the parapet? Like, what's the edge?
The top is 46.
The top is 46. So, I mean, that is significantly higher than the fire station, right? So I'm just trying to understand, like, what is gonna be visible from particular residential neighbors, more broadly, not direct abutters, but, and then sort of the experience on Spring Street, because that's a massive change in scale. So if you could provide any sort of renderings and site sections, with the vegetation, and this goes back to preserving as much vegetation behind the fire station as possible, as that buffer between a new building and what's existing, because it just feels like it could get pretty prominent pretty quickly. So any clarification on
So
really
you'd
the
like to see a
scale of that
section
mass? Site section, like.
Standing
like-
at King Street, what it looks like going in.
Yeah, through the fire station to your building. And, you know, any 3D views, like, kind of superimpose that you could show, what that looks like from the street would be helpful for me anyway, on that topic in particular. Thanks.
Real quick question. The front building on Constitution, that's approximately the same height as what's there right now, right?
No, lower.
It's shorter. It's about
New one's
30,
gonna be-
roughly 30 feet shorter.
The existing one's that.
No, the existing one
30
is
feet.
taller.
The existing one's taller,
The existing one's
so the
taller.
front one's bumping way down, yeah, okay. That's right, okay.
It's a 3-story building,
Yeah,
18 foot.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so in the due process, we'll work our way through that. If we wanna go to, traffic, I apologize, I wasn't like fully, ready for traffic tonight, but if we can work our way through it, it would be fine. If you wanna just give us a rundown of what you found, and then we'll defer to, Gary's group, Beta.
So you want the applicant to go first?
Sure,
Perfect,
you
yeah,
could.
no problem. We're good with that,
Unless you
yeah.
want to do it the other way
No,
around.
doesn't matter. You asked him first last time, so I just wanted to see what the board wanted. But I'm more than happy to go first, and then Beta can follow up. So we did receive Beta's review comment letter dated December 11th, and then we submit, and there were 2 traffic comments on that that needed to be responded to. So we prepared a letter dated December 16th, which was included in the Beal's resubmission at the end of last year. There was the 2 comments. One pertained to the pedestrian phase at the signalized intersection of King Street and Constitution Boulevard. The question was, why did you analyze the AM with a PED phase and the PM with not a PED phase? Well, when we did the counts during the PM peak hour, there were no PEDs, so we wanted to analyze it as we had seen in the field with no PEDs. But to answer the comment, we provided a sensitivity analysis in our December 16th letter, including a PED phase during the weekday PM peak hour. We provided the level of service results in a comparison, and it does have similar results with movements of level of service D or better and minimal increase in delay. So all that analysis was provided in the response to comment letter. The other comment was about confirming whether or not the King Street at Constitution Boulevard traffic signal was not currently coordinated. And we went out and as responded to in our December 16th letter, we did conduct a field inventory in April of 2024. And the controller, although it does have the ability to be coordinated, it was operating as default free during that time, and we always analyze the intersection as it's operating at that time. However, as part of the background developments at 585 King Street, there's a development going in. We'll change that whole intersection. So our 2024 existing analysis shows it uncoordinated, but our 2031 future analysis shows it coordinated as proposed by the background development. So that is how we had answered all of those 2 comments.
I had a quick question. With the warehouse that was across the street with the road improvements that they were gonna do, will that need to be done in conjunction or now in order for all this to come together, or would your traffic work without the improvements that they were gonna do on their property and out on the road?
Since the existing site, if it was reoccupied, right, could essentially fit in there, our traffic is less than what a reoccupancy of the building would do, exactly, and that's what I presented at the last meeting. Although we did analysis, we didn't show a difference because it would be less, we just added the traffic on and did the analysis. So my assumption would be, yes, it would work fine, because if the building was reoccupied and it runs now, when it was reoccupied, then it would be able to handle the warehouse information.
This wasn't
fit in.
adding any additional, with that road work that was done yet.
Correct, it's not, that road work doesn't have to be done as part
In
of
order-
this project,
In order
correct?
for this to function properly.
Right.
Thank you.
I believe Dennis is online.
Yes.
Dennis, you there?
I am. Good evening. Yes, Dennis Flynn with Beta.
Hi, Dennis, how are you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, if you wanna chime in on your thoughts.
Yes, sure. So, yeah, I think what we just heard is a good summary. Like what was mentioned, we did not have, really too many comments on this, just a couple specifically related to the traffic impact and access study. Really the bottom line, the takeaway, I think, with this development, this proposed development is although it's a large development, sizable, the amount of new vehicle trips to the area is low, is minimal. And just to kind of highlight, if you do the kind of repeating or reiterating that there was a comparison table included in the impact study, which I think is something that's worth taking a look at or noting, is that if this site were to be sort of occupied with what it was currently used as, which was, I believe, an office development, the amount of traffic was significantly higher, sort of an order of magnitude higher. And what we're seeing now with this proposed site would be significantly less. So really the bottom line is when you go through that and you look and evaluate the impacts, the off-site impacts to the adjacent roadway network, what we're seeing, critical takeaway is that the proposed traffic, the additional traffic, I should say, that volume relative to the available capacity on the roadway is, I should say, the volume is less than the capacity. So we would not expect to see any operational difficulties or concerns, anything that was, we may have had an issue with. It all looked like, based on the analysis, it was going to operate effectively or satisfactorily. So we didn't have any significant concerns related to the proposed development traffic and how that would operate. And then just quickly on the proposed project, across the street, I'll say, the exact address is escaping me. It appeared that from our evaluation and the information provided that the proposed roadway improvements were primarily done there to more or less mitigate the impacts associated with that traffic. So if that project were not to go forward, so I just kind of repeat that a little bit, I think if it was stated, if that project did not go forward and the roadway and the intersections were to be retained in the current condition, this new development we're talking about right now, the operations would still be acceptable or satisfactory along your intersections and roadways. So that was really it.
Okay, good, thank you. I'll go to the board, I'll start with Jen first. Jen, any comments, questions?
No, I was just looking for some clarification on the level of service comparison chart. That was, I think, on page like 630. Of intersection capacity analysis summary, table 6R, 2024 existing versus 2031 no build without reoccupancy versus 2031 build versus 2031 build sensitivity analysis. Like what, because I was just a little confused by the overall intersection grading in summation of those, because it looked like the 3 columns to the right were actually worse, like a lot worse. But I'm probably just misunderstanding the verbiage because I'm not a traffic expert. So.
That's okay. So what happens is existing, no build without reoccupancy, and build are the numbers that were provided in our traffic study, which was table 6. We call it table 6R for a revision type of thing, so we added the sensitivity analysis. You will see once you start adding that PED phase, right? It's an exclusive PED phase that crosses King Street and Constitution Boulevard. You can see some movements get better and some movements get worse, but overall, the level of service, I mean, the VC ratio goes up a little bit, right? So if you think about the cup full at 1.00, it goes from 0.74 to 0.77 from what we had shown in our analysis without the PED phase to with the PED phase. Obviously, the pedestrian phase takes up a little bit of capacity in that, and you'd see actually the PED phase impacts the main movements on King Street, on King Street the most. You see those queues increase a bit because of it, but that's because you're stopping the main line of traffic, right? You're holding them to let pedestrians cross. Something's gotta give. And so that's where you would see the impact of that. But again, it's a PED phase. We didn't see it called in the PM. That's not to say that it won't be called in the future, which is why we did the sensitivity analysis.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. No,
Good.
thanks. Yeah, glad you're in alignment.
I apologize, but Beta, could you tell me where I would find your comments on traffic? I don't see a letter in my packet, so I'm just curious if I just don't have it, or if
They're in the December 11th, it's T1 and 2. Those were the ones that we responded to.
Right. I think that, hold on 1 second.
Page 5.
Yep. Page 414.
I unfortunately don't have it in my packet, so I'm just looking online, so 1 second. But skip over.
Okay, Jay?
I got nothing. Back to you, Beth.
What'd you say?
I said back to you, Beth.
Alrighty,
Didn't
Jen, do you
have
have any
enough
more
time.
questions, Jen? Hold on. I don't right now,
Do you
sorry.
want my copy?
I think I just found it. You said it was in the, what was it, December?
It's December 11th beta comment letter.
Okay, I got that one here.
Page 4.
Okay.
Starts the traffic impact and assessment, section 5.
All right, I got that now.
T1 and T2 were the ones that I just responded to. The rest of them had to do with like turning movements and things that will be addressed in the site plans.
Nope, I have Beta's January 6th letter, but I didn't have the one from the past meeting, so.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. It's fine. Just,
January
Yeah,
6th.
we don't have it, I don't have a January 6th.
I don't have a
No,
January
no,
6th.
Beth, the December 11th comments are within, are overall dated what we were given January 6th. Like it says somewhere that these are from December 11th. At least what I have online. Compiled. Yeah.
all right, so page 5 of 13 on the January 6th letter?
Yeah, the top two comments, T1, T2.
Thank you.
Is there a different
Yeah, is
letter?
there a different-
No,
What
no,
is-
they were just saying that, like,
Different-
they
different.
compile
Yeah.
the notes sequentially, like meeting after meeting, and it's all within the current submission of January 6th, so. But it-
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it says they're from December 11th.
Got it. Sorry, I missed that part. I'm okay right now, sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, go to Mike. Mike, do you have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, we really don't have anything to add. Nothing other than what Peter had already mentioned. We talked about the easements, those issues there, so nothing on the traffic. I was surprised to see that those, the existing signals aren't coordinated at the moment. They were intended to be coordinated, those 4 of them. But I did actually met with your, the field guy out there at the time too. John was out there, so.
John was out there.
We, I know, I believe the master control of that is the one that the Mass DOT controls. We've had issues along that corridor in the past, and they've come out and they've made changes, so it's been working recently, and I know Mass DOT, when we do have problems, we reach out to the district, and they help us out with the master controller where they coordinate it, so the fact that they're not coordinating now is something that they've done, so we're okay with that.
Okay, good. Yeah, I guess I'll go to the audience. Anybody in the audience have any comments, questions? Or on Zoom? Okay, that's fine. Chris, good? Jay, good? Beth, you all set? Okay. So, sounds like you're okay with the draft as of now? I think just clean up some loose ends with Gary on the layout.
Stormwater.
drainage and
Stormwater.
And
That's, and that's where we're at with, excuse me, with conservation. We met with them last Thursday. Sounds like we're all wrapped up with them. They just traditionally wait for you and the stormwater. So as soon as we get through that, I think they'll be all
Yeah,
set.
you'll have to get their approval first, and then we'll follow on.
Oh, they said we gotta get yours first.
Yeah. Okay, Amy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If they're looking to continue, I think that we've already got 4 or 5 hearings on the 10th, so we'd be looking at February 24th.
Okay. That'll give them time to get everything resolved, then. Would that give you enough time, too, Gary?
Yes, it would.
What was it, 24th?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I asked this once before. Is it okay if we work directly
Sure,
with your
yes.
office? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I always like to make sure that that's acceptable. Just go ahead.
So, okay, thank you. So I make a motion to continue 55 Constitution Boulevard till February 24th. Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
has the Panther Way thing been taken off for tonight?
No,
Nope.
it's
No.
still.
Okay, I didn't
Not
see
until it
anybody
gets-
here, so,
Nope.
thank you, sorry for
We're
interrupting.
getting close.
Last but
Okay.
not least, we'll get there.
I'm getting hungry.
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna ask, would you recommend, do we want to flip-flop the zoning amendment and Panther Way, if there are people here
Oh,
potentially?
yeah. Oh, we can do that. Amy, you okay with that as well?
Yeah, that's fine, whatever the board would like to do.
Okay. So see, there you go. You're gonna get Panther Way now.
Nice, thank you.
Pays to speak up.
Never hurts to ask, does it?
No, the worst they can say is no. That's what I always say.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought we had a lot to discuss.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
We're just gonna change things up. We're gonna move to the zoning bylaw amendments, to Panther Way. Panther Way is an initial public hearing, for a senior village. It's, goes to the special permit site plan application. Make a motion to waive the reading. Very second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
If, you guys wanna approach the table and introduce yourselves and And then I'll go to Amy, and this will be a brief overview, I'm sure, because there's a lot of paperwork to follow.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so, they had filed with us for, a senior village overlay on Panther Way. Tonight's just an overview. Beta is still reviewing the plans. I believe, traffic from Beta is still reviewing the plans, so they just want to get in front of the board, get a little bit of feedback, give a brief overview, and, you know, probably be continued to another hearing, but at least they can get some comments from the board tonight.
Okay. You sure it's gonna be continued?
I know it's been a long night.
If you're ready.
Yeah. The more prepared you come, the better.
We got a
you
little
are.
ways to go.
If you guys just want to introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Brad Chaffee, Canfor Property Group, applicant.
Rick Goodrow with United Consultants.
All right, if you want to go first, or Rich.
Sure, I'll give sorry, I know it's been a long night, so I'm sitting out there getting a little tired, so.
We enjoy this.
I know, I'm getting warmed up a little bit. This is late for me already, so, I'll try to keep it brief for everybody too. So in front of you tonight, we're proposing, on Panther Way, which is behind our other project we had a few years back. It's a 49 unit plus 55 single home development. It consists of, in general, it has a 20 unit mixed-use building in the front, 3 stories. We also then have about 10 duplexes and 9 single-family homes that are kind of towards the back of the site and throughout. So Rick will go over some of the civil plans. As far as some stuff I brought with me tonight, if, you know, I figured someone would help me with the computer, but I do have some renderings that just show scale. It's a nice rendering, I didn't put all the colors into it, but what I really wanted to do tonight was go through this, get comments, talk to the town, talk to Beta, talk to Butters, and then I can tweak that and just make it nice. Same thing with elevations of the front buildings, stuff like that. So I didn't want to go through all that stuff tonight, but just a heads up.
Okay. Rick, if you want to go?
Sure. All right, can everyone hear me all right? So, property's located on Panther Way, small frontage, on West Central Street as well. If the board recalls, some of the members were here about 5 years ago. We come in with the Holmeses, and they proposed a bus garage on the front portion of the site here. The current proposal, as Brad had mentioned, is for a residential development. Pages here. For a residential development, Main Road would connect from Panther Way, come up into the site, and we would have the proposed 20-unit mixed-use building in this location here. 2 parking lots outside to service the building. Additionally, there'd be parking under the building. Roadway continues up, and actually go this way with it. Roadway continues up. Driveway comes off of the main driveway, connects into an emergency access point here, which is behind the existing building that has been constructed. And then additionally, a second driveway is proposed here that would be a dead end. You can see single-family unit, duplex units here,
single-family units around the cul-de-sac. And as we mentioned, there was the 20 units in the one building that's the mixed-use building. So we do have some amenities we're proposing for the site. We do have a pedestrian walking path that traverses through the open space, and then has a pedestrian connection out to 140 West Central Street. We do have sidewalks proposed within the development as well. We do have a pickleball court proposed in this location here. We have provided a stormwater system, sewer design plans, driveway profiles, erosion control plans, a lot of detail which we anticipate Beta will be going through shortly. And but that's a general overview of the project. I do have a few other things in my notes. We have proposed waivers. 8 waivers have been proposed. Some have to do with construction standards. The waiver requests are located on the front sheet. 2 of them have to do with this type of the project. One is a reduction in the setbacks from 50 feet to 30 feet. And one has to do with the open space percentage of wetland. So, Pam's been reading the bylaw, that we have to have the same percentage of wetland in the open space as we do from the original parcel. So, the mathematical equation would be if, let's just say there's 10 acres in the original parcel and 1 acre is wetland, that would be 10%. We have to have 30% of the site minimum to be open space. So if we then took that 3 acres, which would be the 30% of the total site, and we put the entirety of the wetland in it, obviously we would exceed that. So our proposal is to include the wetland in the open space, and we've requested a waiver from that provision. We have actually provided almost as much upland area in the open space as would be necessary to satisfy the 30%. So it's really an interpretation of how it's written, but it is a waiver that we requested that we wanted to talk about. One other thing we wanted to discuss is we do have photometric plan for the building area, which is a conventional type of site lighting. But with respect to the driveways and the residences, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I do have some pictures. Sure. This is a picture of a neighborhood in an abutting town. And what we've done in some of these towns is provided post-mounted lighting at the driveways, as opposed to a more industrial street lighting concept. And we wanted to point that out. So we wanted to, provide you an idea of what that would look like and see if the board would be amenable to us pursuing that type of lighting before we put together a final photometric plan and lighting details. We have had the lighting company do the building, and there's some building mounted lighting and some pole mounted lighting that's conventional of a typical mixed use type building. But we felt that this would be more appropriate based on the driveway spacing. What we've done in other towns is had them put on timers so that they're on for certain hours, not controlled by the homeowner. So that you would have the lighting available. But if the board's preference would be a more conventional subdivision lighting scheme, we could certainly do that. We just thought it would be more in fitting with this type of neighborhood. So we wanted to get that discussion and dialogue going before we, made those final tweaks to the lighting. So I think those were the big points I wanted to hit. As I said, we have a site stormwater system, sewer system, water connection. The stormwater system does propose 3 additional infiltration basins that are underground. When we modeled this
5 years ago, we had looked at the entirety of the site where the existing building has now been constructed and what the watershed was coming at Panther Way. So we've now incorporated that portion of the site into the final design, routed the 3 new ponds with overflows to the open detention pond, which is located to the right side of the entry driveway that's been built, and that already has a connection, an overflow connection. So we've routed that. I'm sure Gary won't have any comments on the stormwater, but I won't hold my breath. I think I might have just jinxed myself, actually. But anyway, so that's an overview of that. You know, if the board has any questions, any comments, again, we'd like to hear from the neighbors if they have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the audience, I'll go to the board. Everybody, this is a preliminary, initial view for everybody. I guess I'll start with Chris first. All right, I'll start with Jay first.
I got it.
I got Jay first. Jay, what are your thoughts?
All right, so, just some basic stuff now, with this being an initial one. Some mobility things around the site, so, we get the multi-use building, but it doesn't seem like there's like a sidewalk leading up to it. I didn't see one on the plans, if we have a sidewalk leading up to it, I think I'd probably be convenient.
So we actually have in-building parking, so we do have some.
Sidewalk, right, so people on the site can walk up to the building, it looks like the sidewalk just kind of stops
Yeah,
at
it
the
goes by
entrance.
the, we can bring it from the,
Yeah.
I'll call it the building entrance up.
Exactly. Something there so people can stay on the sidewalk. Kind of along the same route, it doesn't look like there's great accessibility from your site onto the walking path, so maybe like some sort of way for people to actually, there might be, it just might not be apparent, right? So to just kind of point that out where like people could, you know, perhaps walk down that dead end, or it looks like there might be a retaining wall there, so that might not work. But anything like that where you can actually show how the people would get from the site onto that path. The next one, do you guys have any concept of how much ledge you're looking to remove, if any?
Yeah, we do have an earth removal. I didn't know if you wanted to take it. I can certainly take it. We have filed an earth.
You know, we can discuss it next time.
Yeah, no, we have an earth removal permit that we filed with the zoning board of appeals, and we have just over 100,000 yards of material that we're proposing for removal. What percentage is ledge? I
Yeah,
don't
I'm more concerned with like how much ledge is.
That I don't know. We didn't differentiate.
All right.
It's essentially the back half of the site.
Yeah, because that's a question that people often have, like, not that you haven't had success with ledge, I think you've handled a fair amount of it in town, so.
Unfortunately, yes, I'd rather not deal with ledge all the rest of my life.
I know, but that's
Every site in Massachusetts is
That's what's
wet
left,
or
again.
ledge, so.
What did I tell you?
That's what's left, ledge and what?
Lead, water, irregular shape.
That's it.
I know that 5 years ago.
Now, for the somewhat noisy one in the room, the pickleball court.
It's very controversial, and I'll say
Can we
that at
move
first.
it somewhere else on the site maybe?
I'm okay if the board doesn't want one. We, just for sound, I am very in tune with people's views on pickleball courts. So I am okay with taking it out as well.
Maybe another amenity, like.
Or,
yeah,
or can it be adjacent to commercial property?
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say, like, put it adjacent to the commercial
because I
properties.
think it'll be a great amenity for the residents.
We had a couple, I mean,
But just move it away from other people.
yep, that's not a problem. We can put it behind the mixed-use building also, as like a clubhouse.
Yeah,
Part of that comes
exactly.
out.
If it's behind the mixed-use building, get the mixed-use building there acting like a sound barrier, it's deflecting the sound away from.
Yeah. I mean,
I
like
think
said,
that's a great idea, because then you've got like a sound wall there, essentially.
I'm not opposed if people are, want
Yeah,
to take it
just-
out too.
Anything you do.
We've gone back and forth, we just kind of put it
I
there
know,
and talk
it's-
about it. It's
I-
tough, it's a very,
Every
I don't
community
know.
has a different opinion.
Yeah. Nope.
I think it's here to stay.
What's that?
That's just my opinion. Anyway, go.
What, the
It's your
sound?
turn. I'll have one.
But
Yes.
so,
Happy.
no, that's it.
I'll give some options on that, happy to put it somewhere, I'd get rid of it.
Maybe like crochet instead. Badminton.
It's quieter.
Watching.
Bocce, great sport.
I think I would agree with you. In concept, pickleball is the thing right now and up and coming and everything, but I think where you have it located and lots of reading has been done on noise from pickleball. It can be very annoying.
Yes.
So, agree with you. Great idea, if you can put it somewhere where it's not gonna disturb your neighbors. Otherwise, maybe a little bit passive.
Bocce.
Bocce.
Absolutely.
Any of the above.
I think the reason we put it over there to start was more of if people were driving in, we had some other parking that was over there, and it was just kind of more front and center when you came, as guests came in and things like that, but I 100% understand about noise and anything else, so like I said, I'm not.
I don't wanna send you off for a noise study for pickleballs.
No.
That was a joke. It was funny.
It's okay, I'm not very good at pickleball either, so I'm fine with it.
Then, I don't know if it's because it's 9 o'clock and my brain's been up since 5 AM, but could you just reiterate the discussion you mentioned about including the wetlands in your open space? I'm sorry, that just kind of flew by me in understanding what you were saying. And just point out where in our bylaws it is, because when I read it, I'll understand it better. You're asking for a waiver from it, right?
Yes. So I guess I can explain it first. So we have the open space on the site. So I used a mathematical equation because the numbers for this are very different. But the requirements are that 30% of the site or more has to be open space. And that the open space cannot have a higher percentage of wetlands than the original tract.
Right.
So for instance, if the original tract was 10 acres and there was a 1 acre wetland, 10% of the site would be a wetland. If we then put that 1 acre wetland in a 3 acre open space parcel, we've now increased that to 33%. That's not allowed.
That bylaw doesn't seem like it would ever work.
It's a very,
It just doesn't, if you have a site that's 10 acres and you automatically develop part of it and you don't shrink the wetland will automatically be a higher percentage of a smaller area. That sounds
Or
like
the
a
wetland-
stupid law.
the entirety of the wetland cannot be
It's dumb.
in the open space.
Is that, to clarify the intent of that bylaw, maybe would help through the chair to Amy or the planning department? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the requirement for open space partially supposed to be for recreational
Yeah, that it has to be
use? And the
usable.
reason why wetland can't be such a significant
Yeah.
part of that is because then it's not usable.
Right.
So in order to meet the spirit of the intent of the bylaw requirement, we want to see more usable open space that is not otherwise prohibited from use by the wetland.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Just so,
I
We
think that's
understand
kind of the direction I
Yes.
was going in is, I don't know how to ask my question, so I need to think about it a little bit.
The math is, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, the math makes sense, it just sounds weird in the
So if you
bylaw.
were not to, I'm understanding it, if you were not to include the wetland in the request for the open space, your open space area wouldn't be enough, or would it be enough? Wouldn't be enough.
So what my comment was, is that if we took the 30% requirement
Yeah,
of the open space at 10 acres hypothetically,
yeah,
we have, our open space has approximately 2.95 acres of upland, and then the 1 acre of wetland. So our open space exceeds the 30%, and the upland area we're providing exceeds the percentage of required area that would need to be open space, upland area within the open space, if that makes sense. So this is under the density determination section, number 2C. No, I'm sorry. Under that, it says provide for a minimum of 30% of the lot area as permanent protected open space, conforming to the open space standards set forth in this section. The minimum of 30% open space requirement may be waived by the, oh, that's a different section, I apologize. That's the
This is
one.
a big
with the
bylaw.
code.
It's very
I
long.
thought I had it.
Understand this.
It's like, I've read a lot of bylaws, and this is just it's a lot of pages and a lot of.
Maybe we could just ask for
We don't,
some
we can
clarification for the
we'll
next
clarify
meeting.
that.
Yeah.
Let's clarify that in the next one.
That would be great,
Yep.
I'd appreciate it, because I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot saying that you can include your
Yeah.
wetlands, and then the next one comes down the line, you said, well, so-and-so got to include their wetlands, and,
We'll
yeah.
clarify this on fresher minds.
And I'm really good at seeing colors, so if you could provide me like a color highlighted, that would be great.
I have a thumb drive, I was gonna show the rain, but it's all
No,
right.
just highlighting where your open spaces, I know I can look on the plan and see
Oh.
it, but if you have something that really clearly says, here's our
Go,
open space.
do you, should be on the last page of the plan too. It's hatched. Or maybe-
If I may, this is a plan that we had included. And this plan
That's helpful.
basically shows the entirety of the site.
Yep,
What would be cut off for the existing building lot,
yep.
which would be lot one. And then the remainder of the site would be everything north of this hatched area and this line here. And then this hatched area would be the open space.
I don't think that plan made
Yeah, I
it into
don't-
your plan set, so if
Yeah, I
you could
don't have
include
that.
that in the plan
Sure.
set, that would be great.
Yeah, this shows how we planned on, all the calculations were based on the proposed
Yeah, having that
lot
would be great.
one
Yeah,
for, lot two for the development.
okay.
Before I go further, I forgot to ask you to give us a brief overview.
She does not have a letter.
Oh, okay. So I guess, Amy, you're not giving a brief overview. Jen?
You good, Beth?
Yeah.
Okay. Few questions for the chair. Are any percentage of these units affordable?
Yes,
What percentage?
15.
50%?
15.
15?
Yes.
Okay, so the minimum bylaw requirement? Would like to see an increase in that if possible. Generally, I mean, obviously this is a very challenging site from a grading standpoint, from I'll just stick with grading first. A little bit concerned that despite the percentage of open space to remain, it's actually not accessible at all by the residents, just based on the grade changes from the actual residents themselves to any sort of remaining forested area. And would love to see more usable or user-friendly pathways that can take advantage of the open space to remain, even if that means more recreational pathways within the development itself and not just along the forested perimeter or like outskirts, but more integrated. I believe like way back when you first like threw a plan in front of us, like rendered plan, like, hey, is this something that the board would be interested in? I just remember there was a lot more green. And I know that we don't have a rendered site plan in front of us, but I suspect with the density that I'm seeing here and the number of dots I see on the page representing trees, that there may not be that same percentage of green space, outdoor space, to be able to take advantage of just walking outdoors, considering especially the grade changes and the fact that we probably want some flat areas beyond just like, all I'm seeing really is, I mean, yeah, there's the pickleball court. There's not a ton of just land that's flat or that has the ability to have raised garden beds or, you know, be an amenity to the seniors if this is supposed to be a senior village. So I would like to see, I guess, just more thoughtfulness in that sort of pedestrian experience of the residents and what they're accessing outside just getting to and from their homes via vehicles. Similarly, this is a very densely wooded area, and everyone knows I love my trees. So would like to see as many significant trees remain, and I guess that's just one general question is, has there been any analysis of like significant trees on site that would try to remain or keep? I mean, what I'm seeing right here is everything is clear cut essentially, in order to build the development, which I can respect, but just would like to see some replacement of trees, some, in however multiple forms that may happen, either on site or in a tree bank, or can we also preserve significant trees? What can we do to, again, this comes back to sort of that open space and experience and look and feel. And then lastly, I know you said you had some renderings. I think I read somewhere zoning that these are all 2-story. Are any of these single-story?
They're all ranches.
They're all ranches. Oh, okay.
100%.
So 2-story is
Except
just the height? Is that what?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
one-floor house.
Okay.
There's no second floors.
Okay.
Except for the multifamily in the front, that's a 3-story.
Sure. And I think the scale of that, especially right next to the storage, the barn, and like being closer to Panther Way,
It
like
looks
great.
more, yeah, it kind of hides a little bit.
And I think that's super appropriate for Senior Village. So I appreciate the consideration for the scale of that, and look forward to seeing renderings. Lastly, what is the grade, and I know you provided some sections, just from Panther Way, let's just say via sidewalk up to, not just the apartment building, but to the first, I'll just say units like 1 through 5. Like, what's the grade of that?
All 15 feet or so. This is what, I think it's 2 feet.
Yeah, I'm looking for percentage. It's at least 8%, right?
It's max 8.
It's an 8% slope.
Alright, I just wanna make sure that people can get down to, like, can go and walk to CVS.
Yeah.
Right, or like, can go, if they don't have a pickleball, court on site, they've got tennis courts right down the road at the high school that they can go play pickleball on, right?
Yeah,
So
that's great.
like, just making sure that the pedestrian experience, like, to and from the site is also reasonable for the people that are going to be.
Well, we have provided a profile of the driveways, all 3
Yeah.
of them. Coming in off of Panther Way, we have a 3% grade. And that comes up to this first driveway. So that's 3% to that point, and then it transitions up to an 8% grade, and then into a vertical curve where it flattens out again to 3%. And that's consistent happening at the side driveway areas where we've created a level area for those intersections. But the main portion of the driveway is 8%.
Okay.
It's hard to tell. If I had the rendering, I would say, but essentially this whole site goes like that.
Yeah.
So with the grading, a lot of the reason why us to kind of click at this too, specifically just with Highwood, we're, from those buildings, we're 30 feet below them. So when they look out, they're over our roofs. So
Yeah, that was the other thing I noticed, that you're low to your
Very
neighbors, so
low.
like, what are they
Yes.
seeing?
So,
On the roofs, and it does look like some of the units, I'm guessing, because they stepped on the hill, like, they're 1-story, but because of the grade, they have
some of them have,
walkout
yep,
basement
some of
or
them,
something, yeah.
absolutely.
So that's good to take advantage of the site.
There's one, sorry, I don't mean to,
No.
it's hard to see. What I'm gonna do on this next meeting, I'm gonna take this, we'll hatch it with colors, so you can kind of, I think it'll be a little easier to see some of the stuff. But, and I'll make maybe another rendering now that I'm listening to everybody. Where the mixed-use building is, you'll see kind of on the backside, there's a patio area. So the way this 3-story building works, your first floor is gonna be drive-in garage mixed use, your second floor is actually gonna have a clubhouse. And there is, I don't know, maybe a 10 or 15,000 square foot grass area for the residents where a bocce court can go, a grill can go. There's landscape around it, so it's kind of private from those 2 duplexes that are there. So that's the community space, it's very hard to see.
Where that stormwater's underneath?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's just a green space just for the clubhouse. And I'll
okay.
bring some renderings that actually like show what that looks like, because it's very hard to see. But that's one area of gathering, I'll say, and it's just grass. We could have put another 2 homes in there if we really wanted to, but that's what that area is for. It's just hard to see.
Thank you. That's all for today.
Thanks.
No, I guess, yeah, go ahead.
Streetlights, going back to those.
Yes.
I'm like kinda on the fence, right, because I think they look cool, but, I'm assuming that part of the reason you have them on the timer is because they 360 the light, right? Where the Cobra head doesn't, or any sort of like, you know, the ornamental streetlights kind of don't as much.
Yeah, I think the point of the timer too is make sure they all come on, so it's, you know, it actually provides lights that people like picking and choosing. I'm very, like I said, I can go either way, and that's why Rick and I just didn't, I feel like this looks nicer, but I'm okay with putting streetlights, I just didn't want it to be like a.
Yeah, I think these look nicer. I think the streetlights are probably like standard Cobra head is probably a bit tactless through here on the same turn. But I guess it's more, right, so these things go off at night, but then it's dark in a senior neighborhood, which we probably want the extra light. So it's like, well, where's the middle ground? Could we accomplish the same like look and feel thing, but with ornamental lights rather than like Cobra heads, perhaps?
Yeah,
That we
yeah.
leave on all the time, that maybe there's some way to prevent spillage backwards.
Yep. We talked about kind of putting them at the intersections too, where the two roads go,
Yeah.
and at the cul-de-sac. So maybe you do like 4 of them or something that are at your main points of,
Yep.
you know, driving. And then at least you can see ahead, like, all right, there's a road that turns in, something like that.
Critical
So,
point. Yeah, like I'm not opposed to the non-Cobra head.
yeah, maybe we just put some ornamental lights in those
So
kind of
we'll get some
areas.
creativity for
Yeah,
the lighting.
exactly.
That's really what we were getting at.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I encourage the
Maybe
creativity.
similar to what you did in Rentham.
Yeah.
Down the center aisle.
We can do
The
that.
smaller scale.
Yes. It's actually, those pictures I gave you were from that
Yeah, I know.
development further in,
Yeah, I know.
where they've eliminated that, but they do have those smaller height lights, more ornamental lights along that boulevard, yes.
I knew it looked familiar.
I was wondering, maybe one of my same comments as you was, I love this concept. Just but the intersection points, like you noted, might be critical. I think we overlight a lot of the time, and I don't know, so we need to really illuminate everything we illuminate to the extent we do. So I think this is a great idea, as long as the safety points, like you said, they cul-de-sac and intersections are.
Yeah, we'll come up with a little plan.
And again, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about this, but what about, such a dense development, do you have any idea of traffic numbers?
Yes,
This is
so
kind of a.
we did submit,
Did I miss that? Have I missed
Tetra
that?
Tech, yeah.
It's in the letter.
They took into account the existing Pantherway building that's there, which, that plus this, so it's included in there.
They said it would
Is
be
that-
school limited impact.
What about the new Franklin
How
Ridge
about the school?
project?
Also, Franklin Ridge and the school, because you're entering right on, basically, right in the police department.
Yep.
I would definitely pull all those numbers together as part of the project.
We actually have real numbers from the first go-around, so we're very familiar with exactly how that works, so I'm happy to, I can even add a little more to this.
Yeah, because you get the ice skating rink and all that down there.
Yeah.
You're coming a throughway, so you
Yep.
be careful. Okay.
Sorry to miss
You
that.
done?
Apologize.
You good?
We have good data on it.
And for now, and for now.
Good for now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you took advantage of every ounce of property there, yep.
We are, I know, right?
49 units and then 20-unit apartment building with a restaurant, yeah, you might say
We had a couple,
squished it quite a bit.
we had other designs where we had not ranch-style homes with 2-story homes, where we fit more in. We had 4 other duplexes at the top of this conservation area, crossing over there.
A lot of units.
So, we've gone through a lot of designs.
A lot. A lot of units for this site,
Yeah,
you know.
I
So,
will,
Me personally, I think it's too much, but we'll get through our ways with that one. The restaurant, I just wanted to make some general notes.
Yeah.
The loading area for, say, the restaurant for trucks turning and deliveries, I don't see any kind of means for them getting and going. Dumpster locations, gravel removal, you said 100,000? That's a pretty substantial amount of material coming out of there. the slopes, I mean, you have a pretty good, you've got a pretty good rise there, from Panther Way to, say, Unit 13, you're probably 32 feet, 31 and change from base road up, that's a pretty good incline, especially if this is 55 and older. How about sidewalks going down Panther Way towards the ice rink to tie into the senior housing up there? I see the kids walking up and down Panther Way with no sidewalk, so.
There's a sidewalk on Panther Way.
It's on the
Sidewalk.
opposite.
It's on the opposite side of the street.
That sidewalk.
Which side?
It's on the police
It's on
station
the east
side.
side.
It is, okay, all right, my fault. 'Cause I see
However-
the kids walk on the, I see the kids walking on the, ice skating rink side all the time.
However, I
as
will
well.
say, right at the intersection of the CVS Drive where you cross to the other side, or you have to cross, it's just dead.
Okay.
And that's kind of a dangerous area, which is then getting to your bus stop site, so.
Yeah,
for what
that's
it's
the
worth,
area where I meant.
they're like,
Thanks, Jay.
just throwing you a bone.
Yep. Yeah, restaurant, delivery, loading areas, dumpster, 8% slope on the road is pretty substantial. The gravel removal is a big one. Duration of time, it's gonna take a while to pull that kind of yardage out of there. How much is gonna be a cut and fill on site, or you just hogging out?
It's a cut and fill.
Yeah,
So
there's
that's
some material to be used on
Yeah,
site.
there's a lot of great material at the front of the site, very good material,
Yeah.
very, very good material. So it's, I'll say, it's a ledge in the backside, and it's beautiful gravel on the front side.
How about, our famous line, retaining walls? Do we have anything? Because you got some
We
pretty
do.
substantial grade changes, like especially to the front parking lot is to the existing drainage basin.
Yes.
So you're gonna need things in there, so get your retaining walls in here too.
Yep.
Okay? Obviously, everything 4 feet and all, don't make it 3 feet or whatever.
Mr. Chairman, sorry,
Sure.
if I may, about the retaining walls?
Sure.
Would you, I know this has been something that the board has looked at, as far as we have, I believe we picked out what style it has. What do you guys like to see for, I guess, drawings or anything at this point? Just a little more detail from the manufacturer of what actual type of wall, and I know there's heard stuff a lot about it.
I mean, as long as it's, structurally sound, I don't think the aesthetics bother me, it's a matter of whether it's gonna do its job and it was installed correctly and signed off. That's why I wanna make sure we have, all stamped drawings for all the retaining walls, so there's no questions when the data goes out to review.
If they're over 4 feet.
Over 4 feet, yeah.
We have some small ones, we have some.
Yeah, yeah, but just really,
Okay.
as a FYI.
Yep,
Um,
thank you.
And then the waivers, I guess we'll have to lead our way through the waivers without, any time with it.
Some typical
We just think
ones,
it through, yeah.
pipe cover and whatnot, but
Yep.
some more substantial ones, I just wanted to hit the highlights,
Sure.
but.
I'll go to Mike,
Really haven't had a chance to review the whole thing yet, so
Okay.
I'll have that for next one.
So let's just, we'll go to the audience, whoop, sorry, I got one more. Chris?
Hi.
Sorry, buddy.
Thank you.
Back at you.
Thanks. Good evening, guys. Just a few comments. Overall, I like the application and the use. The tie-in, did you say it was an emergency access only to the homes? So that'll be a gated entrance behind the bus stop building? Okay. The pedestrian path, is that gonna be a finished path? Is it gonna be left to nature? What's the thought there on the utility of it?
Actually provided detail for the pedestrian paths, would be a gravel base, lumen cedar over, so it would have some stability, but also would have some vegetation on it.
Okay. And I saw on the planting plan, you have some trees or something over, and we're gonna be below Highwood, but it's obviously heavily wooded right now, so just doing our best to mitigate light transference from cars coming out those two streets pointing into Highwood, would be great. And then, what's the size of the retail space on the first floor of that building?
So we broke it down right now. We don't have a proposed tenant, but we just picked kind of what we thought would be
for the traffic study, we did an intense use, which I guess would be a restaurant, right? So we put that in there, we picked 5,000 square feet. It's about for argument's sake, it's about a 15,000 square foot footprint of a building. 5,000 would be for a commercial space, the other 10 would be for parking. So, but we tried to come up, if it was a retail use, there wouldn't be as much. That's why we ran a restaurant in our numbers, so that we could show if that was that. But it could be an alternate user, so it's some other type of retail, lower intensity.
Yep.
I'm in favor of removing the pickleball, just in general. And then on the post lights, I like this design. I like that they're controlled. I'm assuming dusk to dawn or something similar. I think having lighting coming up the initial entryway would be extremely helpful, even if there's minimal up sight. When you turn right on, you come into the parking lot area, just making sure we have those lights that cover that area there. And then I think to Jen's point, more affordable would be great. I think the trouble we get into is the more affordable we introduce, the denser you can actually make the development, which is, I think, a zoning problem. Like the bylaw itself, I think, we've talked about this a few times now, that these sites come in and they're dense. And I can't fault the developer for just trying to do what they think is right for them.
So per bylaw, we are only 46% of the way for what we can build here.
Exactly.
So we're less than half of what we could build here.
Right. So, I mean, I would, separate from this development, it sounds like some revisiting of that bylaw might be in due order, because these sites can be incredibly dense.
We have 50, you could put 150 here by your bylaw.
112.
Yeah.
112 units would be allowed, and to Chris's point, if we increased the open space, some other options, one of which is the affordable component, we could increase the density of the project to above 112 units.
So we're gonna continue to battle this for years.
Yeah.
Until there's some revision to it potentially, because it just makes it incredibly dense. And it takes a lot of power away from us, I think, in that sense. Those were all of the carts that I had.
Chris, I kind of following up on yours, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind. I'm trying to think of the right words to phrase this. So I know you said what you're at, what, how many percentage of how many units you could have on here?
46 or something.
46%.
46%. Is that strictly based on our bylaw that you can have an increase in density in this 55 plus if you meet certain requirements? However, with that being said, I remember back to one of our other projects that was before us, that's been continued for a year now. If I remember correctly, Amy had written a memo that stated that if we're at a certain percentage of 55 plus developments, that the board has to vote to allow an increase above what your base density is. Am I accurate in saying that? Does anyone remember that?
I don't know if this applies, but we
We can
look into that. We did do the study too.
Right, yep, I remember that study. Along what you're saying, Chris, is I think it's a good concept, and I like the mix of different buildings you have, because there's not a lot of those options for seniors in town. But I think maybe, is there any way to reduce it a little bit? I'm really curious how your waiver for the open space plays out in all this, and if you didn't get that waiver, what would this project look like?
I actually found the section, finally. I can read it if you'd like. Now I lost it. But I put an asterisk next to it, which I should have done originally.
And I think the other question I had was your, the
Length
length
of the
of your
road.
roadway, at 1,049 feet right now, which I think is above what we allow for roadways.
We have the emergency road connection
It's
point.
gonna be gated though, right?
Yes, for emergency
Can
vehicles.
you just get comments from fire on that one?
We have not
Yeah,
gotten
can
any
you?
comments from
All
anyone.
right, if you can just get comments from
Yep,
fire
you
on.
confirm that, yep.
Yep.
We did meet with the.
Mike, have we
fire.
allowed that before?
I'm sorry, the,
Extended or
With, by utilizing the gate?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I don't remember which one.
The one I do remember strongly is the one over here on Cook Farm,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That
Village
was
of
a
Cook's
big
Farm, I-
discussion that because they had an access road, even though it wasn't
And this guy
accessible.
right here had I couldn't remember that one.
I believe Brooks was up there too.
Just confirm all that for me.
We anticipate comments from the fire department.
Okay,
you know,
yeah, just
once we
that
have
you
them.
qualify having that access road even if it's gated. Yeah. And then, I think just, I know Amy's computer died, so she's watching on Zoom, but Amy, if you could just note down that comment you made at the other 55-plus development, about the percentage of already approved units and how that interacts with how many units they can have. That's what I got.
All right, we'll go to the audience. Just as an FYI, this is just the initial out of the gates, so there's a lot more homework to be done on it. But if you just want to introduce yourself for the record, please.
Sure, I'm Lisa Harvey, I'm at 88 Highwood. I have a number of things, but I'm just going to keep it short to a couple things that I've heard tonight that are kind of troubling. With respect to the pickleball court, I would like you all to know that having lived at Highwood for over 20 years, the level of noise in the Highwood community has increased exponentially since the other development went in and they cut down all the trees. All you hear is traffic, cars, and so I'm very concerned about a pickleball court going in because I know how that's going to carry, and when the noise, it's worse at night. We all know when we go out for a walk at night, everything's amplified, and so that's a real concern. So I've heard the developer say he's okay letting the pickleball court go. I'd love to see the board stick to that and say no to the pickleball. With respect to the noise, I also heard them say they want to reduce the setback from 50 feet to 30 feet, and that is also a concern because what they're basically doing is putting in a whole new neighborhood into people's backyards. And so there were a lot of trees that were cut down for the original development, and basically there's not going to be much of a wood line at all separating the two properties. So I would like to encourage the board to maintain that 50-foot setback. My biggest concern about all of this is that Panther Way is not a throughway. And there is so much traffic on that road already, and everybody thinks, oh, just when school's in session. That is not the case, because school gets out at 2:30, and if anybody's gone on Panther Way at 2:30, good luck getting in or out of there, because it's not happening with the traffic. School goes beyond school. There are sporting events, there are all kinds of events that go on there 7 days a week, at all hours of the night. Basically until at least 7 o'clock, sometimes 8, you can expect traffic there. So I think that the access for this project should be to 140, not on Panther Way. Panther Way keeps getting exhausted. It's got the high school, it's got the hockey rink, it's got another senior community, it's got the police station, it's got all the people at Highwood for this little road, and the road isn't even maintained very well by the town anymore. The water runoff that's come off, that comes down from CVS and from this development project, it just pools on Panther Way, and the pavement's eroded, and this is going to keep happening because it's a giant hill. It just runs down, and as you know, you've talked about the elevation, but I believe that they have access, although not a wide piece of property, they do have property that goes to Route 140, and I think that should be the access in and out. And I know people are going to go, oh, it's a state highway, but you know what? You guys approved a Taco Bell opening into a 4-way intersection on a 4-lane state highway. And that created a ton of accidents till you guys, or somebody changed the light to have a left turn arrow. With what's gone in on 140 and the traffic nightmare that's been created, including up at the development where the Starbucks and the physical therapy is, I mean, that's a nightmare there too. I don't see that having a driveway open to a residential community, which, by the way, it's also kind of a little misleading because it does have that commercial space. That should be a little more prominent in the title. They're proposing a 5,000 square foot restaurant there, so that's going to be constant traffic. I looked at the traffic study and just quickly, and it seems to me that the traffic study indicated that on a daily basis there will be 619 trips by vehicles in or out in total. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. So if they want to put the development in, great, but let's have the access be on Route 140 so it doesn't create a bigger traffic problem on Panther Way. So those, I've got more things, but those are the big highlights. I just urge you to please consider them because it's a real problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. My name is Michael Medwar. I've lived in Presidential Arms for about 20 years, Building D, which is next to the woods. Can you give more a sense of how, it's hard to tell on the plans, how far up does it go? Like using existing landmarks, exactly how close is it to our complex? How far it goes up the hill?
From a grading perspective?
Or just like
just the
landmarks?
distance-wise?
Yeah, I was, yeah. Maybe it's too early for that question.
I just don't have my, yeah, sorry, but I can get back to you. It's
Okay,
over 100 feet.
it was just hard to tell. I would like to kind of ask, how much like blasting are we talking about? You know, we talk in the building about every time there's a blast from somewhere. Right now it's the school. We definitely, from the warehouse too, wasn't expecting that, being so far down near CVS. Shakes us up a little bit, usually not expecting it. Yeah, how many months, years are we talking about this kind of excavation going on to make that a buildable site?
I'd be happy to answer that. Sure. So the back, we would start the back of the site and work our way down. It's kind of how we would build this. So that's where the blasting would start, would be in the back. Not every day, but in a 2-month period, we'd be able to blast that back side up. So it's depending on, you know, I guess who you ask, if that's a long period of time, but it would be a couple days of blasting, a couple days of cleanup, and that would be about a 2-month type of span. So you're really knocking down big chunks of it.
I see.
It's not like we won't have an operation where we're setting up and processing gravel. It's really just to get the earth out of there, and it is weighty. So I'm not exactly sure, but that's from what we calculated.
Okay. The daycare center, there's a lot of jackhammering from morning till just past 7 o'clock till night for months.
So when we do blasting, we usually do maybe a couple blasts for a day. If you're hammering, you're listening to ting 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 ting. So it's, I know as much as the blasting, we go by the appropriate state laws, what our distances are, you know, how we, if we're within a distance, we have to go to your building.
Yeah.
Have someone monitor it, go through it. There's a ton of regulations that we have to go through to do this. We blast in the center of town. I am very familiar with all this, and I have a lot of the butters that we blast.
So the final question is there any chance of damage to either of our complexes?
I would say it's extremely unlikely. We blasted 10 feet from the last building I was just at and had 0. So again, it's monitored. What you hear with the blast, it's like an airplane going by. It's more of a sound that bounces off. The vibration of mass in the earth to move, to be able to affect your foundation, is you basically have to move the earth. So you're hearing the plate or something's on your wall. It's a seismic hearing. That's what they measure. So they measure seismic on the ground, they measure it on the building, and they take both of those. But what you feel in here is the air. It's not the earth moving. So just, I'm very happy to, if anyone in your community wants to come by our office in the center, we did this downtown with our butters. I am happy to go through that process so people are comfortable with that, because I know blasting sounds very scary. It's, you know, and I get it, and it's loud, and you don't know what's coming. I think it startles a lot of people. So we made sure that we would let everybody know, this is the week that we're doing blasting. Here's what our plan is for this. This is the blast we expect. The fire department has to be notified how many we're doing.
Right.
So as long as everybody's in communication of it and understands what's going on, I think that makes a huge difference.
the element of surprise is not going to be blasting.
Definitely.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Marie Del Zoppo from Franklin Crossing. I think most of my questions have already been answered. We're west of the development. We abut the open space, which looks lovely. You answered my question. I wanted to know if it was going to be paved or if natural. It sounds really nice. I think I just have one request. Right where that property abuts our community, there's a line of white pine trees, old, beautiful, tall, white pine trees. I'd like to request you, if you can, while you're making the walking paths, to leave them because they make a good buffer and they're just beautiful. I love my trees too. So they're just beautiful trees. And it does sound nice. I mean, the open space sounds really nice, the walking paths. So if you could do that, I appreciate it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Linda Walker, and I'm in Highwood 3. And I just have a question on the number of bedrooms in each of the units. I don't know what the regulations are on over 55 housing, but I did see somewhere that some of these units were going to be 3 bedrooms. And I'd just like to know the number of bedrooms per units, what the breakdowns would be.
Sure. So on the actual houses and the duplexes, those would be 3 bedrooms. The building in the front was to allow more of a 2-bedroom mix. So we allowed that mixed use in the front building to have a smaller, more of a scale of affordability of what the price is. We build a lot of 3-bedroom condos. These are about 1,900 square feet, 2,000 depending on what they are. 3 bedrooms, especially for the ones that's in the right price range, is very important. They usually have an office in one of them, and they have a guest room in the other. So that's the majority of the way we build those for that. I mean, obviously, there can't be any kids in the school system or anything like that, but having that spare room, especially people working from home, having their grandkids over in a bedroom, a 3-bedroom is a nice sweet spot for a lot of people that are retiring or downsizing.
But it also leaves the potential that if it's a 3-bedroom unit, and the restriction is 18 years of age, they could potentially turn it into a 3-bedroom unit and having 3 residents living in there with 3 vehicles, which would contribute to more traffic problems as well, correct?
If they had older, I guess if they had older kids that were in there, I guess if they were staying there, depending on what the association has as well as a restriction.
So basically, 29 of the 49 units will be 3-bedroom units.
Yes.
29 will be 3 bedrooms, and then 20 of them will be 2
Can I just clarify
bedroom.
something for you? 55 plus does have restrictions on the age, so if it's 18 plus, I think there's a medical need for somebody that lives long-term, or there's a period of time in which somebody that's 18 plus can stay. You cannot stay unless there's a reason behind it. You have to be 55 plus. Yeah, you can't live there if you're 18. That's basically what it comes down to.
Brad,
You
is it
can't-
possible
yes.
to label the unit numbers on each of the buildings?
Yeah.
Units?
Yeah, I can.
They
I
are
can.
on it? Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, but I can break down
I didn't see that.
bedrooms and units too.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I see the number of bedrooms.
Yeah, number of
Sorry.
bedrooms
I can
per-
break that down.
Per building,
Yep.
just building 1,
Yes.
3-bed, 2-bed.
I-
Okay.
While we're waiting for that, I just did have one clarifying question on the affordable, are they distributed or are they all in the apartment?
They're distributed.
They're distributed,
per
so some
each
are the
model.
single,
Yep.
some are the
Yes.
duplex, some are, okay.
They have to be equally distributed.
Okay,
So
thank you.
per 9 has 15% of that, per the
Yeah.
duplex is 15%, and per the building has 15%.
Okay.
So
How many
it's,
total?
there'd be 7
Seven.
affordable.
7.
It's 15%.
Yep. Thank you, sorry, go.
Hi folks, Anthony Carmignani, 472 West Central Street. Just had some questions about the egress for 140. So currently, there's no egress to 140 other than a pedestrian path, is that correct? I mean, we've been there since 1968, and I'm sure if you just stood up there for 5 minutes, you'd hear all the cars roaring up and down 140. As soon as they hit that light at Panther Way or the Village Mall, they just floor it down there, and there's accidents all the time over there. And My folks are lucky they're still alive, they're in their golden years. They got plenty of time to sit at the end of the driveway and wait until something happens, but, and they've just been watching that time go down and down over the years, and I'm just getting concerned that there's so much traffic in there that, and the speed of the cars that are going through there is 40 miles an hour. Of course, people are going from 0 to 40 miles an hour in about a half second. So, I don't know what the solution is. I used to live at Highwood, so I feel for the people there, and I understand the traffic concerns that are over there. But, you know, we shut down old West Central Street 40 years ago, because we don't want people coming out onto the roadway because it's such a high rate of speed that it's just not safe. When you get a traffic light, you regulate all that stuff, and that's why it's there, right? So, and it's like the lesser of two evils. What do you do at that point? And I know it's not as easy to go to Oak Street anymore, or of course you want the highway right there.
Well, it's not a throughway.
Right.
It's a one-way street.
It's not a throughway.
Yeah.
You know, putting an egress on West Central Street just doesn't seem like a good solution. You're already at the, you know, you're halfway up the hill. So people coming up the hill aren't going to see you coming in. And people coming down the hill are coming so fast, if you're trying to pull out and go towards the east side of town, you're going to wind up with even more accidents than you already do. And just one other thing about, just want to make sure that you've got, I look across there, I've been looking at my whole life, I'm looking across the street, it's just a big hill of rock, right? There's some trees there, but by and large, it's just all ledge. And he wants to take a hill like this, that's all ledge, and make it look like that, right? 100,000 yards of material trying to move. You know, if you don't understand what that looks like, that's a lot of stuff, right? That you fill 1,000 truckloads to get all that material out of there. That's a lot, right? So what about the 1,000 trucks that are going to come in and out of Panther Way for this construction development? You're still going to have a 8% grade. So if you're 55 years old and you want to walk uptown, you have to walk down the hill with an 8% grade. Think about a day like today where you've melted the snow and now you've got ice all along there. There's a lot of potential for problems, no matter which way you put the entrance or the exit. You know, I feel for the people that want to build to keep growing the town, but it seems like a real rough spot. We've had blasting all around, you know, our property over the years, and every time they blast, more problems come to the house, whether it's water mitigating up from the ground. We're at the top of the hill, and we're getting water in our basement. Figure that out. You know what I mean? We're at the top of the hill. So the ground is being disturbed for sure when you're blasting up all this rock and ledge, and you're not going to see all the problems that come from it at the top, right? Some of the stuff is going to be going on at the bottom. I only know what's going on from my place, but I'm sure all the people that are over there, a lot of Highwood is all, there's no basement there, right? It's all flats, and a lot of floors will probably crack and all that other stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of concerns to think about beyond, you know, beyond the property itself they're trying to develop.
Thank you. Chris?
Just to follow up on the traffic comment, as the developer had mentioned through you, Mr. Chair, that they chose the worst case scenario for the traffic study in regards to a restaurant. So there's alternate uses. So of the 639 trips, 420 were the restaurant. So if there is an alternate user, and I'm not trying to say it's the right answer, I'm just saying if they don't go with the restaurant, it could be lower.
Okay, but they could also divide up that space and have it be multiple different retail units. They tell you this, and then they tell you they don't have a tenant, because we've been through this before. And I get that, but so please don't assume that they've given you worst case scenario, because it's not. If they put in 2 fast food restaurants there, there's more traffic, and that can happen, and they will tell you, and they're right. If it gets zoned commercial, they can make changes down the road. It might be something today, and then 3 years down the road, it could be something completely different that really affects the traffic. So please don't discount that based on their worst case scenario.
Yeah, so just to pontificate on that a little bit more, I guess, right? So when we look at these things, we're talking about like seating and how many people. The restaurant is the most people that would fit on the site, right? So any other use that they put there would experience less cars. So that's the idea, is that they chose the highest use.
But that's not true.
That's how these
If
don't
they
work.
put in a Starbucks there, they're gonna have more foot traffic and more cars. They're not gonna have people sitting down for a meal. So and again, they've proposed the restaurant, and I get that, but they have the right to change it once it gets, once it gets approved for commercial.
They do have the right to change it, however, that change would be required to come back to the planning board. So if, I understand you're skeptical of that, but that's the way it works. And they do send us back, they do send applicants back, and Brad, you've come before us for changes in use, and we have to reevaluate it.
I understand that, but Panther Way, again, is not a through way. And there's a light at the end of the street, and it takes a long time to get out of it. And the other way, if you choose to go out when you're not supposed to, is a driveway to the school.
No, I think we all understand and hear your concerns. We hear them, and I think we've asked for some changes to
Anybody?
occur.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments? No? Make a
Can
motion?
I just respond to the
Sure.
woman that asked about the 18-year-olds living? I just wanted to read you, what was that? The section of the bylaw. It's all dwelling units in a senior village shall be subject to an age restriction described in a deed or rider or restricted covenant and shall be reviewed by the town attorney, yada, yada, yada. The age restriction shall limit the dwelling units to occupancy by seniors age 55 or older, or their spouses of any age, or other persons in medical need can be established to the satisfaction of the association approved by the board. And then it says that we need to put within our decision whether we're okay with any changes to the age restriction. So 18-year-olds cannot live there. There is reasonable times allowed for visitors to stay, but that, again, is limited. So I don't think that you'll see an issue with 18-year-olds or younger folks living in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Could I just throw one thing out there? Why can't they have two means of egress so that it's not just all dumping onto Panther Way, so that they could exit out to 140
I think
or
that,
Panther Way?
they're going to take a look at that, and we'll,
Take
at the next
Yeah,
meeting, probably
yeah,
address that.
This is just an initial, there's gonna be many more meetings moving forward, so. Amy, we're gonna continue this.
She's not able to hear you online, but she did tell me to let you know that, to continue it, sorry, give me
Yeah.
1 second. She texted me, let me get it pulled up. Please continue until February 24th or March 10th.
March 10th, maybe? Give Gary some time, Mike some time, get some information. All right? Hey, yeah?
March 10th, you said?
Yeah.
February 24th.
That's 2 months from now?
Yeah, February 24th.
Probably
That
February
time.
25th.
All
If we could.
right, so let's
Yeah.
make a motion to continue public hearing for Panther Way Senior Village till.
There is someone on the Zoom call, which I
There's someone on the Zoom call.
JMTOL has their
Somebody
hand
there?
up a little bit, so
On
I
Zoom?
wanna make sure we consider them.
I didn't see any.
Raised hand.
Where?
I don't hear
We
anybody.
can't see anything on the screen.
I see participants, but I don't see them.
Is somebody in
Can
Zoom?
you hear me?
Yes.
There you go. Question?
Okay.
Just,
Yeah, I've had a lot. You've answered some of them. One comment, my name is Jean Tollins. I live at Highwood Drive.
what is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I live at Highwood Drive. I've lived up here for 35 years. Seen a lot of changes. One issue, just to respond to the thing about using 140, going out to 140, I hate to add to the traffic on Panther Way, but to try to get out onto 140, either to make a left turn or without a light, people are going to get killed. And it's a light real close to the Panther Way light, so now you've got a whole bunch of lights. That could be great either. I had a question about, this is a senior project, yes?
Correct.
And if you could, I'd like to see here's some landmarks. Where on 140 would it come out? Would it come out next to the Dunkin' Donuts? To the Wendy's, through the Wendy's lot, down by CVS? Just something, and onto Panther Way. Would it come out like across from Vendetti's next to Holmes, or further up further down. That's really helpful for me to visualize this, because I have been looking at the maps and I can't tell.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Sure, just a quick one.
Yeah, that exit point would be between the CVS property and the Max Roast Beef Restaurant. That's where.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Actually, where
Then-
their
then,
outdoor
yeah.
covered seating area is actually on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Because that's going to be an off place to make a left turn out if you're trying to get out onto 140 without a light. Okay, and the other, where it comes onto Panther Way, can you give me some sense of where that would be?
It's right across from the Vendetti's van lot.
Okay,
Evans Way.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That names it down. And lastly, I am just wondering if you are taking into account all of the traffic and the construction coming for the sewer lines that are going to be ripping up, I understand, a lot of 140 over the next couple of years.
That's not how.
And how you think that will have an impact. Have you thought about that in the planning?
That's not how traffic studies.
Well,
Mr.
I'll
Chairman, if I
let
may.
DPW Mike answer that.
I don't have a lot of details on that, but I believe the work in 140 for the sewer work will be this year. I don't think it's gonna go beyond another construction season after this. They've been started last year, they're still continuing to work, but I think this summer you'll see most of the impact on 140. So that should be done by the
Okay.
time they're really well into construction.
Okay. And just one other comment about the blasting. You said that what we are feeling when they're blasting for Tri-County is it's the air pressure. I will tell you that I have been outside my unit by my car when the blasting has happened, and I feel that through the ground. That's all. I'm not looking for a debate or anything. I'm just making that as a comment. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so make a motion to continue to February 24th. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not done yet.
One more.
Okay, our last item of business would be for a public hearing for the zoning bylaw amendment 24-919 and 24-920. This will be for the sign illumination. And Amy is not on.
To participate via microphone.
Okay.
Do you want me to summarize?
Yeah, if Beth can do a quick summary for us with
So,
this one.
Mr. Chairman, at our last meeting, we had opened a public hearing to discuss changes to section 18520C3 and 18520E regarding, and the zoning location for a suggested LED by special permit in the, let me just confirm, commercial 1 zone, commercial 2, sorry, commercial 2, business and office zoning districts by special permit from the planning board. We gave some comments and reviewed it, had some comments from the owner of the building who is requesting this change through the town, and wanted to wait for opinions from Jen so we could be a full board making a recommendation or not to town council. In our packets, we received some information about the bylaws, talking about, let's see, illumination, if approved, proposed LED and LCD message boards could be allowed in commercial 2, business and zoning office zoning districts by special permit. It talks about a motion from the Design Review Commission who made a motion not to recommend, indicating that they wanted to see some more, I guess, guidelines to how this would work. So asking that there be clear requirements for permitted size, refresh rate, and levels of illumination, LED, LCD signs, message boards is defined. Design Review Commission wanted to be given the opportunity to review the proposed signs if the planning board approves a special permit, so the commission can confirm that the sign complies with the rest of the town's bylaw. So with that being said, I think that's where we're at. Whether we're recommending as submitted by the Department of Planning and Community Development, or if we're proposing any changes to bylaw slash requirements, zoning districts and whatnot.
Thank you, Beth. You wanna make a
Yeah, I'll make a
initial
comment.
thoughts,
Sure.
and then we'll work our way through with
Yeah.
everybody?
So I spent a little time thinking about this from the last meeting, and I think the main component actually, I agree with everything the Design Review Commission has indicated, but my big one is, in its current form for the locations of C2, business zone, and office, I don't support it as that currently is presented in the zones. So for me, I would like to see it just proposed in the business zones, taking out the business, and I guess I would be okay with office too, but I'm not okay with West Central Street, the majority of West Central Street and East Central Street being covered by special permits for LED signs. I think your visibility on 140, West and East Central Street is pretty good, and the need to increase it with illuminated signage such as an LED board presents is not necessary. I don't disagree that some of the business zones probably could use a little assistance in getting traffic into their particular areas, and perhaps as defined by specific sizes, lighting, illumination, and whatnot, suggested that design review could be appropriate in having a special permit for an LED board in those locations, but I do not support East or West Central Street in the commercial 2 zoning district.
I also, through the chair,
Sure.
I also don't support office. I mean, there's only one zoning district that's office, and it's directly across from small-scale residential houses on Pond Street. It's like that, where Chestnut Dental
Yeah,
is.
it's on the corner.
Yeah.
And it's all houses right across. I also just want to make sure, and maybe it says it more specifically in the signage bylaws, but like even within the business districts, right, like some of those properties do directly have direct abutters that are residential, and so I assume that it indicates like where these signs are allowed, meaning like on the
Setbacks
frontage and the setbacks and like the,
Doesn't
right? Okay, so that's a little bit of my concern, is that even in the business district, where like, sure, there are a bunch of parcels where they're only surrounded by business district or highway, and that's fine. But there are a lot of, a handful, decent amount of parcels that are direct adjacent abutters. I'm even thinking about like, so the Starbucks, Dave's Hot Chicken, that's in business. Well, it's residences across Pond Street, right? There's nothing that says they can't just go put a message board on the Pond Street side, and now they're across from residences, right? So like, where it falls apart for me is a lack of clarification on where and how these illuminated signs could be displayed again, and maybe I just couldn't find it in the bylaws, and it does say it somewhere, but especially parcels that have seemingly 2 front doors that are already kind of an issue, just with traffic, never mind. Now we have message boards on a residential facing side of a property. And I personally, I just like don't think that's the look and character that we're going for in Franklin, right? Like I think of 4-lane roads that have illuminated signs with message boards down them. I think of like abandoned Route 1 in like Saugus and Norwood, and not to call like not anything negative about like certain towns, but
Limited access highway.
yes, sure. But like,
Jen, I think just not to interrupt you, but just, if you're looking at the sign bylaw,
Yeah.
Every single sign has a dimension of the signs.
Yep.
It has, how many are allowed on the
Mhm.
corner, blah, blah, blah. I would say that what you're saying is spot on, like, follow what you have in here, provide some guidance and guidelines that's in accordance to the standards that you put for every other type of sign, and
Right.
not just push this through without any thought about what the dimensions are and adding it to the sign bylaw, so I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just hesitant to say yes, approve, even if it was just the business district, let's just say.
Yeah.
Because I agree, I don't think it makes sense for the character of Franklin marching down Route 1. I do think on an already dangerous section of 140, we're all talking about tonight, that if we're adding more distraction, to take people's eyes off the road is also just not a safe thing, never mind the look and feel of it. But in the business district, even the way that it abuts other zoning districts, and concern for the placement of these signs and the restrictions on the view corridors to it, who can see them, you know, how does it now become a distraction for neighbors across the street? So I personally don't support this, and I wonder if there's a way that there could be one-off exceptions to this where it makes sense in its like place and everything has to be an exception versus allowed by right. And so meaning it has to be reviewed so that those things can be caught of like where it's
Special
right.
permit.
So it is a special
Yeah.
permit.
Yeah.
So that's my hesitation.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
I agree with everything Jen and Beth said.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jay?
really that, this doesn't belong going down the middle of East Central Street. We're not on Route 9. There's just no performance standards. There's no refresh rate, lumens, how far from the road, how tall the sign, square footage, there's none of that. You know?
Timing, how long you
Yeah,
can
well,
run.
refresh rate, right?
Hours of operation.
Hours of operation.
That's what I was saying.
It's just a million things that should be added to this to give it some teeth, which is not there. So this is in its infancy at best. And to be honest, I don't really think we need this silly bylaw. I think we don't even need this as a community. Even entertaining this, I think, is kind of outside of the character of our town.
I agree. Okay. So,
Mr. Chairman,
sure.
any comments?
I mean, I agree with everybody, it's just,
So may I make a suggested
It's-
motion?
sure.
And if you guys want to add anything, the planning board, I'm assuming we're going in the direction of not supporting this from what I'm hearing from
Mhm.
everybody?
Correct.
Okay, so the planning board does not recommend approval of the LCD sign bylaw changes, and recommends the more performance standards, be added to the sign bylaw directly, specifically, and I'll note what is noted in the design reviews, that there is a clear requirements, permitted size, refresh rate, level of illumination of any LED, LCD signs, and I would also add that we want the sign bylaw updated to say, what happens if it's on like a corner street, can you have two? A lot more thought put into this, I guess I'm rambling on here about what I want my decision to say.
No, it makes sense, actually.
I think they can get the point, so
Sure.
I guess that's what I'm saying, is put more thought into this and then come back and, you know, I think general consensus is that C2 and business districts, C2 and office don't make sense at all, so remove them, and you might get a little more support if you put in some of the details we're looking for. Is that accurate, a long-winded way of saying it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So,
with that being said, make a motion to close the public hearing,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
and then make a motion, and I'm gonna do this in the positive, so just vote negative if you don't want to, it's confusing to do it the other way. Make a motion to recommend to town council the approval of the bylaw amendments to 2419 and whatever the other one was,
24,920.
24,920.
No.
Motion, do you want to say it? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
No.
No.
Nope.
No.
Say motion to deny?
Yeah.
Yes, so, okay, with all the comments that I said.
Okay.
Okay,
What's that?
yep.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Any comments, questions? Us ladies,
No,
sorry.
oh, there is,
Oh,
I
I
gotta put on my
didn't-
Amy hat, sorry,
I
sorry.
didn't ask you.
There is a master plan committee meeting on Wednesday night,
I'll be there.
and I know a lot of you said you were gonna be there, so
Yes.
go for it.
I
Okay.
highly encourage the public to attend or read what is being proposed and participate online if you can, because it will be online as well. Right, Jen?
Correct.
All right.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Looks like there are signatures.
Recording stopped.
A&R.